Chapter 195. Death Valley, above the blood-colored waterfall. Suddenly, two light blue orbs appeared. Gradually, the pale blue ball of light condensed into two humans. One of them was a bald middle-aged man, while the other was a young man with shoulder-length hair. The long-haired young man looked at his body from head to toe and said curiously, "Isn't this teleportation technology too awesome?" The bald middle-aged man smiled and explained, breaking down a human body into molecular form and teleporting it to a planet 30 light-years away. Then, reassembling the molecules and forming a human form again. This is called disassembling and reassembling teleportation. The long-haired young man joked, "You can reassemble after disassembling? Isn't this the same as resurrecting us after killing us once? Isn't it too awesome to resurrect the dead?" The bald middle-aged man explained patiently, "Young master, you must be joking. The technology of resurrecting the dead hasn't been developed yet. This disassembling and reassembling technology is just an improved version of the ancient micro-wormhole teleportation technology." The long-haired young man waved his hand and looked a little impatient. I know. There are very few large wormholes in space, but micro-wormholes that are invisible to the naked eye are everywhere. The micro-wormhole technology is a teleportation technology that breaks down an object into molecular form and transmits it to a designated coordinate through the micro-wormhole before reassembling the molecules. The long-haired young man recited it like a high school student reciting history and politics. The bald middle-aged man smiled and said, "Young master is indeed a top student." The long-haired young man waved his hand and looked even more impatient. "All right, let's go." As he said that, he snapped his fingers. The next moment, the shoes on his feet made a few clicks and buckles popped out. The two pairs of shoes joined together and continued to extend. Finally, they combined into something that looked like a skateboard. However, this skateboard didn't have wheels. Instead, two small wings popped out from both sides. Jet holes appeared under the shoes and at the back. The jet holes sprayed out a stream of light blue particles. Under the strong repulsive force, the young man quickly levitated. His eyes were immediately filled with excitement. He shouted loudly, "Woo woo, first hunting ground, your hunters have arrived." The bald middle-aged man behind him quickly reminded him loudly, "Young master, you came to the first hunting ground to become a level 10 great hunter. Therefore, try not to use these high-tech methods. You must maximize the potential of your body." Hearing this, the young man shook his head helplessly. "Oh well, it's been a long time since I walked." As he spoke, he snapped his fingers again. The hoverboard under his feet landed on the ground, and with a few clicks, it returned to the shape of a shoe. "Let's go." The youth leaped into the air. In the blink of an eye, he had traveled 340 meters. The bald middle-aged man smiled, lifted his feet, and followed him. It was obvious that he had a much easier time crossing the 340 meters than the young man. At the same time, he continued to exhort. "Young master, you're here for the sake of breaking through to become a level 10 great hunter. If it's not too dangerous, I won't help you." The long-haired young man shook his head impatiently. I know. According to the information I have, the strongest creature in the first hunting ground is only a level 10 mutated creature. As for the inferior humans in the first hunting ground, not a single great hunter or psychic master had appeared. What danger could there be? To put it bluntly, we are the most powerful beings here. My mother is too much. She actually let a level 5 psychic master like you protect me. How worried is she about me? The bald middle-aged man could only listen with an awkward smile. 2 days later, the sea dragon clone's strength had risen to a level 6 mutated beast. In another 2 days, when it rose to a level 8 mutated beast, Wuxia planned to personally control the sea dragon clone and enter the sea to crush a group of mutated sea beasts. However, on this day, he suddenly had a thought. He had left a level 10 psychokinesis in the chilly base, and it was suddenly killed. Wuxia didn't pay much attention to it at first. After all, he had left a few hundred level 10 psychokinesis behind. The loss of 1 or 2 didn't affect him at all. He really couldn't be bothered to cross half the world for a level 10 psychokinesis. However, in the following day, he lost contact with 3 level 10 psychokinesis. Mo sure had to take this seriously. He ordered the remaining 7 psychokinesis in the Chili base to gather together. At the same time, they were to immediately report if they discovered anything. However, in the next 2 hours, 2 level 10 psychokinesis were killed. Mo sure slightly furrowed his brows. Although level 10 psychokinesis wasn't the strongest on Earth, it had no problem dealing with mutated creatures below level 5. Now that level 10 psychokinesis were dying one after another, there must be a creature far stronger than level 5 behind this. A level 10 psychokinesis reported to Mo sure from a distance, "Master, according to the information we have, it seems that something is hunting us." Another level 10 psychic reported, "That's right. When we went outside the base in the past 2 days, we found that all the mutated creatures below level 5 around the base were basically killed. And we just got in touch with another base nearby. In their base, a few level 10 hunters were also killed. We guess that this powerful murderer must be hunting all the powerful creatures regardless of species." Hearing this, Mo sure thought for a moment in his heart. He gave an order to Emma in his mind. "Emma, you're close to the Chili base. Go and see what's going on." Emma's voice quickly sounded in Mo sure's mind. "Yes, master." After doing this, Mo sure lay back on the recliner under the grape trellis in the yard. Looking up at the night sky, he yawned and closed his eyes. This was the benefit of having a powerful subordinate. Some problems could be solved by this subordinate. He didn't have to do everything himself. The next morning, after Mo sure woke up, he checked the level of the sea dragon clone. The sea dragon clone was now a level 7 mutated beast. And Mo sure's virus clones could only catch a large number of level 7 mutated beasts to feed it. It would probably become a level 8 mutated beast by tomorrow morning. And Mo sure was ready. When it became a level 8 mutated beast, he would control it to explore the sea and search for treasures. Especially the dragon ruins at the bottom of the sea, Mo sure couldn't forget about it. At the same time, near the Chili base, a woman with an enchanting figure, a delicate face, and blonde hair and red eyes appeared with a boy about 10 years old. The boy's eyes were dull and didn't seem to be intelligent. The woman had a pair of wings on her back and fair skin. Her eyes were as red as blood. She was obviously a vampire. This was Emma and her son. Chapter 196. Chili Base, by the shore. The long-haired young man and the bald middle-aged man were resting on a rock. The long-haired young man's long hair danced in the sea breeze. He picked up the pebbles beside his feet and tossed them into the sea. He said, "This first hunting ground is so boring. The creatures here are too weak. There's no challenge at all. If this goes on, when will I be able to break through?" The bald middle-aged man smiled and said, "Young master, we have set up a restriction on the first hunting ground. Only the top creatures here can reach level 10 super mutated. There are very few that can cause you trouble. This is also the reason why Madam arranged for you to come to the first hunting ground. After all, this place is much safer than the other hunting grounds." The long-haired young man pouted. "Don't mention my mother. She's the one controlling me at home. Now that I'm here, why do you keep mentioning her in front of me? Isn't it annoying?" The bald man quickly lowered his head. "Yes, I promise I won't mention her again." Just as the two of them were talking, 2 figures flew over quickly from the mountain peak in the distance. Their speed was almost 500 meters per second. Seeing this, the bald man was overjoyed. "Young master, the challenge is here." The long-haired young man was instantly energized. He jumped up and turned to look at the figures in the sky. Blonde hair, crimson eyes, a beautiful face, and an enchanting figure. Her left hand was hugging a 10-year-old child. Seeing this, the young man's eyes lit up. "I didn't expect there to be such a beautiful woman in the first hunting ground." The bald man quickly reminded him. "Young master, the humans in the hunting ground are all inferior humans. They are primitive humans. You must not have any thoughts about them. The young man waved his hand impatiently. I know. The humans in the hunting ground are all prey. I'm just taking a look. I don't really want to do anything. Emma landed on the ground and carefully placed her son beside her. She then looked at the two of them and said coldly, Did you guys kill the people in the base? The long-haired young man smiled mockingly and said in English. Who are you? Prey. We are hunters. Isn't it natural for us to hunt prey? Emma said coldly. A life for a life. Then die. As she spoke, her level 10 psychokinesis instantly attacked the long-haired young man. At the same time, she arrived beside the young man in just a second. Although the young man was not injured by the level 10 telekinesis attack, his speed was affected to a certain extent. It was during this time that Emma arrived in front of him. The claw hook on its right wing was aimed directly at the young man's chest. The young man didn't have time to dodge and could only raise his right arm to block. Crack, sparks flew as Emma's right claw tore off the long-haired young man's sleeve. Emma frowned. That was because the young man's right arm was actually a black metal mechanical arm. The entire metal mechanical arm was connected to the young man's shoulder seamlessly. Attaching a mechanical arm to a human body was clearly not a technology that should exist on Earth. When the young man saw that his sleeve was torn, he chuckled. Are all inferior humans so impatient? We've only met for a short while and you're already taking off your clothes? The bald middle-aged man next to him reminded him. Young master, be careful. She is a level 10 super mutant blood breed and also a level 10 psychokinesis. The young man was slightly surprised. But then, his eyes were filled with fighting spirit. This will be a challenge. As he spoke, the flesh on his right shoulder quickly wriggled and soon covered the entire mechanical arm. Then, a 5-meter-long saber formed on the mechanical arm. The back of the saber was in the shape of a sawtooth. He waved the saber and slashed at Emma. Emma used her advantage in speed to dodge the saber and then continued to attack the long-haired young man. Soon, Emma gained the upper hand with the advantage of her level 10 psychokinesis. Seeing this, the young man grinned and said, I couldn't tell that this coquettish girl has some skills. Since that's the case, I'll use all my strength to fight you. As he spoke, the saber on his right arm started to glow with a fiery red light. After a while, the 5-meter-long saber looked like a saber that had just been taken out of a fire. It was fiery red all over. The air around the saber was slightly distorted. It was obvious that the temperature of the saber was extremely high. The next moment, he swung his right arm. The saber instantly left his body and flew forward. At the end of the saber, there was a fiery red chain connected to it. The saber came so fast that even Emma couldn't dodge it. Her right arm turned into a hard-horned claw and instinctively wanted to block it. Chi! With a soft sound, her entire right arm was easily chopped off by the saber. Blood immediately spurted out. One must know that the claw that Emma's right arm turned into could easily split open metal and stone. Not only was it sharp, but it was also extremely hard. But now, it was easily chopped off by the opponent's chain saber. How could Emma not be horrified? The young man retracted the fiery red chain saber and said proudly. Hee, a low-level creature will always be a low-level creature. Don't blame this young master for being ruthless. Die. As he spoke, he waved the chain saber and attacked Emma again. But at this moment, Emma's body kept emitting cracking sounds. Accompanied by these sounds, her body quickly became bigger. Her eyes were so red that they could drip blood. On the right arm that was originally chopped off, the bones quickly grew out. Around the bones, blood vessels, muscle tissue, and finally, skin began to grow. Very quickly, Emma's body reached a height of 100 meters. Her wingspan reached a width of more than 500 meters. Although it didn't reach the extent of covering the sky, it was still very imposing. The young man was stunned at first, but the next moment, he laughed. Taking off your clothes when you can't win, isn't that a disgrace to the refined? The current Emma was 100 meters tall, and her previous clothes were already torn apart. But she didn't care about that. Her right hand turned into a claw and grabbed at the young man. The young man's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. The fiery red chain saber on his right arm danced and attacked the huge Emma. His fiery red high-temperature chain sword could easily split open Emma's body. But such a small injury was not worth mentioning compared to Emma's 100-meter-tall body. After fighting for more than 20 rounds, the young man's stamina seemed to be running out. The chain saber retracted back into his body. The horned layer that wrapped around his right arm quickly receded. His right arm returned to the mechanical arm from before. Seeing this, the long-haired young man cursed, F***ck. Then, he turned around and fled. But his speed was still too slow for the current Emma. Emma was about to catch up to him. He could only snap his fingers. The shoes on his feet quickly pieced together into a flying skateboard. He quickly fled at a speed of 1,000 meters per second. Seeing that the long-haired young man had fled, Emma flapped her wings and pounced at the bald middle-aged man. The bald middle-aged man snorted coldly. You don't know what's good for you. The next moment, a huge amount of telekinesis directly pressed down on Emma. Boom! Emma was pressed to the ground by the huge telekinesis. The earth trembled, and the trees next to her kept shaking. Several rocks on the coast also fell into the sea with a plop. Looking down from the sky, it was like a huge bat had fallen to the ground. Chapter 197. The young man had already escaped 2 kilometers away, but when he saw the huge Emma, he was crushed to the ground. He immediately made a turn in the air and flew back. He shouted to the bald middle-aged man. Let me do it. As he spoke, his right arm turned into a flaming red chain blade and was about to kill Emma. When the bald middle-aged man saw him condense the flaming red chain blade again, his expression changed greatly. He said, Young master, forcefully activating a genetic martial art a second time in such a short period of time will cause too much damage to your body. The young man waved the flaming red chain blade impatiently. I know. Anyway, I have plenty of healing medicine at home. Won't I recover after taking a few? The bald middle-aged man regained his composure and nodded. That's true. But young master, don't make a move first. The long-haired young man was unhappy. Why? Don't tell me you still have feelings for her. The bald middle-aged man blushed slightly and said, Young master, you must be joking. What I mean is that this prey is an excellent sparring partner. Young master, wait until you recover your strength before continuing to spar with her. Your battle experience and battle awareness will increase quickly. Who knows, whether you can break through your limits or not will depend on her. When the long-haired young man heard this, his face lit up. That's good too. But you said that I can break through on her. You are insulting me. When the bald middle-aged man heard this, his face turned slightly red. This young master had a noble status, but he was always full of filthy words. It did not match his status. After that, the two of them walked quickly and left. Emma's body had already shrunk to normal size. She quickly took out a set of clothes from her son's bag and changed into it. After that, she reported everything to Mosher in her mind. When Mosher heard Emma's report, he thought to himself. From the words and actions of these two people, they did not seem to be humans from Earth. Damn, there were really aliens? What was up with the long-haired young man's mechanical arm? They called the mechanical arm a genetic martial art? It seemed that the power of this mechanical genetic martial art was much stronger than ordinary genetic martial arts. They also said that Earth's creatures were prey and that Earth was a hunting ground. There seemed to be a shocking truth behind this. At the same time, this made Mosher feel very unhappy. Earth was a hunting ground and Earth's creatures were prey. You guys sure talk big. With that in mind, he ordered Emma in his mind. If they come to fight with you again, lure them to China. Emma replied, "Yes, master." After resting for 3 hours, the two of them flew back again. The youth looked at Emma, who had already put on her clothes, and spoke maliciously. "Yo, little girl, you put on your clothes quite quickly. Then let's see if you can put it on faster than I can make you take it off faster." As he spoke, the genetic martial art on his right arm condensed once again. Emma obeyed Mo Shi's instructions and did not fight him. Instead, he picked up his son and flew towards the east. "Trying to run?" The long-haired youth laughed and said, "Do you think you can escape?" He stepped on the hoverboard and chased after Emma. Moments later, he caught up with Emma. Emma had no choice but to put her son aside and continue fighting with the long-haired youth. The result was the same as before. The long-haired youth was no match for Emma. However, with the bald middle-aged man beside her, Emma could not kill the long-haired youth even if she wanted to. She could only carry her son and continue flying towards the east. The long-haired youth rested for more than 2 hours. After recovering his strength, he chased after her again. Just like that, the cycle continued. China. In these 2 days, Mo Shi's sea dragon clone had been promoted to a level 8 super mutated beast. Those powerful super mutated beasts usually lived in the deep sea. Mo Shi could not catch them with his telekinesis alone. Therefore, if he wanted to promote again, Mo Shi would have to control the sea dragon clone with his consciousness and go to the sea personally. However, Mo Shi planned to deal with those 2 guys first. It was on this day that those 2 fellows chased after Emma and arrived in Wuxia. The bald middle-aged man said, "Young master, after these 2 days of fighting, your combat experience and combat awareness have improved a lot. And I used my telekinesis to detect that your cells are much stronger than when you first came here. Their capacity is also much greater. If everything goes well, the next battle should be when you break through your limit." Hearing this, the long-haired youth's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. "Great, I've been waiting for this moment." Then, he used his hover skates to block Emma's path. He chuckled, "Little beauty, although you're not bad looking, I can't bear to kill you. But I have no choice. In order to break through, I have to bear the pain and kill you. Let this young master admire your naked body one more time." As he spoke, the flesh on his right shoulder wriggled quickly and quickly wrapped around the mechanical arm on his right hand. The flaming scythe condensed once again. It was about to attack Emma. But at this moment, a figure flashed and blocked in front of Emma. This person was slender and had a cold gaze. He was dressed in black. It was none other than Mo Shi. Seeing this, the youth frowned slightly and stared at Mo Shi. "You bumpkin, don't block me from admiring the body art." In his opinion, this blood-kindred woman was already the strongest existence in the first hunting ground. This man who suddenly appeared naturally couldn't be stronger than this blood-kindred woman. Therefore, he didn't take Mo Shi seriously at all. When Emma saw Mo Shi appear, she heaved a sigh of relief. Mo Shi turned around and said to Emma, "You're tired. You're tired. Go rest." Emma nodded respectfully, "Yes, master." As she spoke, she flapped her wings and flew down. She carried her son and flew into the distance. She knew her master's strength. Even if she wanted to watch from the side, she had to stay as far away as possible. Otherwise, if she was caught in the crossfire, she would be seriously injured even if she didn't die. Seeing this bumpkin of the hunting ground ignore him, the long-haired youth couldn't help but feel annoyed. A lowly human, just a prey, dared to ignore a hunter like him. Courting death. Thinking of this, the flaming chain blade on his right arm was about to attack Mo Shi. But at this moment, the bald man beside him suddenly changed his expression. When he looked at Mo Shi, it was as if he had seen the most unbelievable thing in the world. This was because when he tried to use his telekinesis to probe this man's strength, he realized that his telekinesis couldn't penetrate this man's body at all. This could only mean one thing: this man's telekinesis was stronger than his. How was this possible? The restrictions they imposed on the first hunting ground ensured that there wouldn't be any existence that exceeded level 10 psychokinesis in the first hunting ground. But this man's telekinesis was stronger than his, a level 5 telekinesis grandmaster. What was going on? But amidst the shock, he quickly regained his senses. He quickly pulled up the long-haired youth who was trying to attack Immersive and shouted, "Young master, leave quickly." Chapter 198. Young master, leave quickly. The bald middle-aged man realized that Immersive's telekinesis was far stronger than his. After a short moment of shock, he quickly shouted to the young man beside him. The young man did not understand why a level 5 psychic master would be afraid of a low-level hunting ground native. However, when he saw the panicked look on the bald middle-aged man's face, he realized that things were not going well. He quickly adjusted his flying hover shoes and traveled 1,000 meters in a second, quickly escaping into the distance. Even so, the bald middle-aged man knew that the young master's chances of escaping were slim. He quickly gathered his telekinesis. All the telekinesis of a level 5 psychic master was directed at Immersive. However, at the next moment, Immersive's dragon will spread out. The ferocious and domineering dragon will instantly suppress the telekinesis of the bald middle-aged man back into his body. At the same time, the long-haired young man, who had escaped 2 kilometers away, seemed to have lost control of his flying hover shoes. He immediately fell from the sky. However, before he hit the ground, he was lifted up by an invisible force. He was lifted all the way to Immersive. At this moment, he finally understood why the bald middle-aged man beside him had asked him to run. His genetic martial arts were completely useless in front of this human. All the power in his body could not be used at all at this moment. He was lifted up in the air by that huge force. His entire body seemed to be imprisoned, and he could not even move his eyelids. He looked at the native of the first hunting ground in horror, his heart filled with fear. How could this native be so strong? When the bald middle-aged man saw Immersive staring at the long-haired young man, he quickly shouted at Immersive. "No, you can't kill the young master. Otherwise, the first hunting ground will face a huge disaster. All the living creatures in the first hunting ground will die." Rip. As soon as he finished his words, the long-haired young man was torn into pieces and flew far away. Fresh blood splattered in the wind, looking like wine-red pearls under the sun. Immersive then turned his head and looked at the bald middle-aged man. No one liked being threatened. Especially when he was threatened by someone who was a weakling in his eyes. Therefore, Immersive did not hesitate to tear the young man into pieces. With his current draconic will, wouldn't it be a piece of cake for him to tear a level 10 great hunter in half? When the bald middle-aged man saw this, his expression became extremely unsightly. "You're finished. All of you are finished. When Master is angry, millions of corpses will fall and blood will flow for thousands of miles. Your entire hunting ground is finished." Rip. Before he could finish his words, the bald middle-aged man was torn to pieces. Blood splattered all over the ground. Until his death, he couldn't figure out how an aboriginal with such strong telekinesis could appear in the first hunting ground. As a level 5 psychic master, even if he were to go up against a level 6 or level 7 psychic master, he would still be able to put up a fight. In addition to his many trump cards, even if he couldn't win, escaping would be a piece of cake. However, facing this native of the first hunting ground, he did not even have the chance to use his trump card. In the distant sky, Emma saw this scene and felt even more reverence for Immersive's strength. She originally thought that even if her master could crush these 2 enemies, he would still need to use the shocking power of the Blood Buddha. However, she did not expect him to use his telekinesis to tear the 2 of them into pieces so easily. That's it? Using a popular Eastern saying from 30 years ago, it would be, "I've already taken off my pants, and this is all you show me?" Compared to more than 10 days ago when he fought against Count Dracula, her master's strength seemed to be much stronger. Back then, Count Dracula's strength was about the same as her current strength. Her master still needed the gigantic Blood Buddha to suppress him. However, her master could easily tear these two enemies who were stronger than him into pieces. It was clear that her master's strength had indeed increased by a lot. At the same time, Wuxia landed on a huge rock. He squinted his eyes and went through the memories that he had just plundered from the two of them. After a long while, Wuxia slowly opened his eyes. In his eyes, there was a trace of shock, a trace of anger, and a trace of indignation. It turned out that Earth was really just a hunting ground. All living things on Earth were just prey for others, including humans. 30 light years away from Earth, there was a planet called the Flaming Continent. Whether it was in terms of technology or biological genes, it was much more advanced than Earth. The humans there searched for life planets in the universe and used them as hunting grounds. On these life planets, they released viruses. When these viruses infected the creatures on these planets and powerful infected creatures appeared, they would come to these planets and hunt these infected creatures. This included the local natives. Earth was the first of all their hunting grounds, so it was called the first hunting ground. Tens of thousands of years ago, they had already released various viruses on Earth. Virus X, zombie virus, blood breed virus. However, on Earth, the infected creatures caused by these viruses were too weak for them. Therefore, very few people visited Earth. With the strength of this long-haired young man, he did not dare to go to other hunting grounds. He could only come to Earth and try to break through his limits. After understanding this, Wuxia did not know what to feel in his heart. The humans on Earth were self-righteous and thought that the human civilization they had built was very powerful. However, they did not know that they were just prey in other people's hunting grounds. The humans who thought themselves great were so small and laughable in front of the Flaming Continent. This strong impact on the world made Wuxia unable to accept it for a while. Pessimism? Despair? Fear? It seemed to be a little bit of both, but it also seemed to be none of them. However, after only 10 minutes, Wuxia's emotions slowly calmed down. He had the sign-in system and could rise at a speed these people could not imagine. His goal was the Titan dragon. So what if it was a hunting ground? So what if it was prey? Soon, I will let you know who is the prey. Who is the real hunter? Wuxia looked towards the southern sky, his clear and cold eyes blazing with a surging fighting spirit. Next, Wuxia ordered a virus clone to go to the South Pole. It was to guard beside the blood-colored waterfall and report to him immediately if anything happened. He knew from the memories of the two that the blood-colored waterfall at the South Pole was the only teleportation coordinate. If the people of the Flaming Continent wanted to come, they could only teleport there. He wanted to destroy that place, but from the memories of these people, he knew that it was just a coordinate. Even if he destroyed the blood-colored waterfall and Death Valley, the coordinates would still be there. Therefore, there was no need to waste time going there. At the same time, Wuxia also felt a sense of urgency in his heart. The long-haired young man he had just killed was the son of the hunting ground owner. He had lost contact with the hunting ground owner's son here. It would not be long before the hunting ground owner would send someone to find him. He might even personally bring someone to find him. And their strength was 100% higher than that of a grand hunter, scavenger. That's why you can't guess. Chapter 199. From the memories of the two, Wuxia knew that there were no corpse hunters on the Flaming Origin Continent. The lowest level was hunter. Everyone was no longer an ordinary human when they were born. Some were hunters, and some were psychokinesis. Above the Great Hunter, there were 3 realms. They were Hunter, Desolate Hunter, and Great Desolate Hunter. After each of them surpassed level 10 Great Hunter, they would go to those hunting grounds to gain experience. In their view, every hunting ground was a barren land. As hunters of barren lands, they were called desolate hunters. Wuxia knew that the next time they sent someone to Earth to find the long-haired youth, they would definitely send a group of desolate hunters or even desolate hunters. With his current strength, Wuxia felt that even if he could deal with those desolate hunters, he would most likely lose. Therefore, the most important thing right now was to improve his strength as soon as possible. Of course, the strength of the sea dragon clone also had to be improved as soon as possible. What Mo sure wanted was not only to be able to deal with them, but to crush them. After returning to the base that day, Mo sure asked the base chief to find someone who was more familiar with the geography. He took out the nautical diary and opened the map of the dragon ruins at the bottom of the sea. After looking at it for a moment, the person said carefully, "Mr. Mo, the map shows the Bermuda Triangle of the Atlantic Ocean." Mo sure's heart skipped a beat. The Bermuda Triangle? But it was just a shock. In order to improve his strength, not to mention the Bermuda Triangle, even if it was a dragon's pool or a tiger's den. As long as it was 100% safe, he would still go there. After 11:00 that night, Mo sure did not use the special event to sign in. Instead, he directly specified the modification liquid. 20,000 drops of modification liquid was enough for him to be promoted to level 9 Great Hunter. After taking the 20,000 drops of modification liquid, he was successfully promoted to level 9 Great Hunter. After the promotion, he did not stop at all. His consciousness switched to the sea dragon clone. Controlling the sea dragon clone, he swam out of the mouth of the Yellow River and entered the Bohai Sea. Compared to other oceans, the Bohai Sea was not big. But its area was nearly 8,000 square kilometers. In such a large area of the sea, the number of mutant creatures was also extremely large. Mo sure controlled the sea dragon clone to slowly move forward in the water. Seeing the 28-meter-long sea dragon clone, the mutant fish and shrimp swayed their bodies and swaggered over. All of them turned around and fled in panic. Mo sure was too lazy to chase after them. These were all super mutant beasts below level 5, and were of little use to the current sea dragon clone. His dragon will continue to scan his surroundings. Soon, a level 10 super mutated beast appeared more than 30 kilometers away. It was a mutated devil fish that was 30 meters long. Mo sure nodded. Level 10 super mutated beast, that was his goal. He controlled the sea dragon clone, swaying its tail and moving its limbs. Soon, he entered the sight of the mutant devil fish. When the mutant devil fish saw that this creature dared to intrude into its territory, it immediately opened its mouth and hissed. Roar! Although it was in the middle of the sea. However, he could still feel the aura of its roar. Under normal circumstances, the other mutated creatures would have turned around and fled upon hearing its cry. However, Mo sure ignored it and continued to swim toward the mutant devil fish. Seeing this, the mutant devil fish couldn't help but roar angrily again. Roar! The next moment, its whole body leaped like lightning and swam toward Mo sure. Mo sure sneered in his heart. His dragon will instantly spread out. If his original body was here, he could tear the mutant devil fish into pieces with his level 3 dragon will. However, the sea dragon clone could only withstand level 2 dragon will. Even with level 2 dragon will, the tail of the mutant devil fish had been torn apart. The mutant devil fish screamed in pain. It continued to struggle in the sea. Mo sure took the opportunity to swim over. He swung his tail violently. Slap! It hit the head of the mutant devil fish hard. The sharp blade on the tail directly cut open a bloody wound on the head of the mutant devil fish. The wound was so deep that bones could be seen. The sea was suddenly dyed red with blood. Mo sure controlled the sea dragon clone, and its sharp claws slashed across the abdomen of the mutant devil fish. Rip! A large piece of flesh was torn out of its abdomen. After the sea dragon clone swallowed half of the flesh, it opened its mouth again and bit the mutant devil fish. The mutant devil fish was furious. It could clearly feel that its strength was much stronger than its opponent, but it couldn't beat him. How could it not be angry? In its anger, it didn't retreat. Instead, it continued to open its mouth and bite Mo sure's sea dragon clone. At this moment, Mo sure's dragon will spread out again. It directly attacked the brain of the mutant devil fish. The mutant devil fish felt a sharp pain in its brain and almost fainted. Mo sure took the opportunity to bite the back of the mutant devil fish with his huge mouth that was 7 to 8 meters long. The back of the mutant devil fish was originally covered with a layer of horny armor that was extremely hard. However, the teeth of the sea dragon clone were far sharper than the teeth of ordinary mutated beasts. After biting through the back of the mutant devil fish, Mo sure controlled the sea dragon clone, and its body kept rolling. Death roll. After rolling more than 10 times, the horny armor on the back of the mutant devil fish, along with a large piece of flesh, was directly peeled off. Several bones were directly exposed to the sea. The surrounding sea water was dyed red. It was as if a large amount of blood mist was rising. Ow! Hiss! The mutant devil fish once again let out a hissing sound. However, it wasn't a threat this time, but a scream. The shrill scream traveled along the sea water and spread over a radius of more than 10 kilometers. Within 10 kilometers, all the mutant beasts trembled in fear when they heard the screams, and quickly retreated into their respective caves. The mutant devil fish still wanted to escape. However, Mo sure's sea dragon clone's huge mouth directly bit its head this time. The sharp teeth directly penetrated its skull. In the end, the mutant devil fish struggled for a moment, roared a few times, and slowly quieted down. The sea dragon clone was already a level 8 mutated beast. Coupled with the level 2 dragon will, it was not a problem to kill a level 10 mutated beast that was 2 levels higher. After more than 20 minutes, the sea dragon clone had completely devoured the level 10 mutated beast. Its body length had now reached 29 meters. Its level had also risen to a level 9 mutated beast. It was only a hair's breadth away from becoming a level 10 mutated beast. Mo sure controlled the sea dragon clone and killed another level 10 mutated beast. After devouring it, the sea dragon clone successfully became a level 10 mutated beast. At this time, the sea dragon clone was completely able to withstand Mo sure's level 3 dragon will. Mo sure couldn't help but feel a little excited. Now that it had become a level 10 mutated beast, the next step was to evolve into a dire beast. Chapter 200. The sea dragon clone had become a level 10 super mutated beast. Next, it was time to move on to the next level. Mo sure learned from the memories of the two people from the flaming beginning continent that the level after the super mutated beast was called the desolate beast. The desolate beast was much stronger than a level 10 super mutated beast. In the next few days, Mo sure searched for level 9 and level 10 super mutated beasts in the Bohai Sea to devour. There were about 50 level 10 super mutated beasts in the 8,000 square kilometers of sea. As for level 9 super mutated beasts, there were more than 1,000 of them. After Mo sure devoured so many level 9 and level 10 super mutated beasts, the sea dragon clone still couldn't evolve. It wasn't because it had reached its limit. The sea dragon clone's strength was one realm higher than Mo sure's. Therefore, for it, the limit should be a level 10 dire beast. The reason why it couldn't evolve after devouring so many mutated beasts was because the energy it devoured wasn't enough for it to evolve. Mo sure had to leave the Bohai Sea and swim to the East China Sea. Along the way, Mo sure would let the sea dragon clone devour any level 9 super mutated beasts they encountered. After reaching the East China Sea, he searched for level 10 super mutated beasts with his dragon will and continued to devour them. After 2 days, he devoured 5 level 10 super mutated beasts. Mo sure could feel that the sea dragon clone's strength was increasing. But obviously, it was still some distance away from evolving into a desolate beast. At the same time, on the coastline of Dongying, a mutated crow was flying toward the sea in a hurry. As it flew, it let out a hoarse and unpleasant cry. Yeah. 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 On the ground behind it, a green-faced zombie was also running toward the sea at an extremely fast speed. This crow was Zhao Gao, who was sent to Dongying by Qin Shihuang to kill the evil man Su Fu. That green-faced zombie was Butcher Bai Qi. However, at this moment, Butcher Bai Qi was surrounded by a large number of colorful mutated snakes that were chasing after him. Butcher Baichi kept swinging his bronze sword to kill these mutated snakes. He was now a level 3 super mutated zombie. These mutated snakes were only level 5 super mutated beasts. Logically speaking, it should not be difficult for Baichi to kill these mutant snakes. However, there were simply too many mutant beasts. 3 days ago, they discovered Su Fu's lair. Baichi immediately brought those zombie figurines to capture the demon Su Fu. However, he did not expect that Su Fu would be able to summon tens of thousands of mutated snakes. They had killed countless mutated snakes, but there were still mutated snakes that managed to burrow into the holes on the zombie figurines' bodies, devouring their flesh and blood. In the end, only Baichi managed to break out of the encirclement. Zhao Gao flew out of the encirclement. However, those mutant snakes still did not give up. They chased after Baichi all the way to the shore. At this moment, under the encirclement of numerous mutated snakes, a 5-colored mutated snake had climbed up Baichi's leg while he was not paying attention. There was a fist-sized hole in his leg. The snake slithered into the hole and began devouring Baichi's flesh. Baichi stretched out his hand and reached into the hole. He grabbed the tail of the mutated snake and fiercely pulled. Bang! This tug actually tore the snake apart. As for the front half of its body, it was still inside Baichi's leg, continuing to devour his flesh. Other mutated snakes continued to swarm over. Baichi swung the bronze sword in his hand and killed over 50 mutated snakes. Then, he swung the bronze sword and slashed at Baichi's right leg. Chi! There was a soft sound and blood splattered everywhere. The thick smell of blood immediately filled the air. When the mutated snakes smelled the blood, they immediately surged over like a flood. Baichi jumped with one leg, instantly covering a distance of over 100 meters. He broke free from the encirclement. At the same time, he called out to the mutated crow in the sky. Zhao Gao. At this moment, the mutated crow's body emitted a series of cracking sounds. Its body was rapidly expanding. Gradually, a naked human form was revealed. This person was emaciated, as if he only had skin and bones. On his back, there was a pair of black wings that were 7 meters wide. It looked like the wings of a crow. Then, he pounced down. He grabbed Baichi's shoulder and flew toward the sea. As he flew, he cackled. Who would have thought that Butcher Baichi would be in such a sorry state? Baichi sheathed the bronze sword in the scabbard at his waist and said angrily. This time, we failed to kill the evil man Su Fu and disgraced the emperor's order. Both of us will be sentenced to death. Zhao Gao chuckled and said, Hey! The world is in chaos and the great Qin Empire is destroyed. The emperor only has 8,000 soldiers. If he wants to reclaim the lost land and revive the great Qin Empire, every soldier must be used to their full potential. When the emperor is in dire need of manpower, how can he kill his subjects so easily? Baichi was extremely vexed. I have disgraced the emperor's order. If the emperor doesn't kill me, how can I live? Zhao Gao was too lazy to continue. He only cackled. That's for later. We'll talk about it when we get back. Not long after they left, a giant python appeared on the beach. This giant python was made up of thousands of mutated snakes. The giant python was over 100 meters long. On its head sat a Daoist priest. The Daoist priest had white hair and a white beard. He was in high spirits, like an old immortal in the legends. He looked in the direction where Baichi and Zhao Gao escaped and laughed. Ha 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 ha, Butcher Baichi, go back and tell your dog emperor that I, Su Fu, will lead my army to the west today and attack the mausoleum of Emperor Qin. His great Qin Empire will be mine. Let Emperor Qin clean his ass, neck and wait. At the same time, Mo Shi controlled the sea dragon clone with his consciousness and continued to wander in the East Sea. There were fewer and fewer level 10 mutated beasts in the East Sea now. Mo Shi was wondering if he should continue to devour more creatures in the sea. Otherwise, if he continued like this, when could he evolve into a wild beast? At this moment, he suddenly had a thought. Because he detected that there was a large snake current in the east of the East Sea, which was swimming in this direction. What he saw before was a huge school of fish. But now, what he detected with his dragon consciousness was an extremely large snake current. The snake current was 5 kilometers wide and hundreds of kilometers long. In this huge snake current, there were countless colorful mutated snakes. All the creatures in the East Sea, including the level 10 mutated beasts, could only flee in panic when they saw this huge snake current. Above these snakes, there was a 5-colored giant python that was formed by countless mutated snakes. It was hundreds of meters long. On the head of the giant python, a Daoist priest sat cross-legged. According to the information he received from Emperor Qin, Mo sure guessed that this person was very likely to be Su Fu. Su Fu went to the immortal island in the sea to seek the elixir of immortality and obtained a virus that could truly strengthen the human body and make people immortal. The virus that he gave to Emperor Qin was a zombie virus that turned Emperor Qin and the others into half-human, half-ghost zombies. Seeing that Su Fu controlled so many mutated snakes, it was just as Emperor Qin said. Su Fu the evil man lived up to his name. Chapter 201. When Mo sure detected the evil man Su Fu, he immediately controlled the sea dragon avatar to float to the surface. The white-bearded and white-haired demon Su Fu naturally also saw Mo sure's sea dragon clone. He could feel that this mutated beast was very strong. It was very likely that it far exceeded the strength of a level 10 mutated beast. However, he didn't even pay attention to it. Based on his understanding over the past 1,000 years, there seemed to be some kind of restriction in the entire world. Any creature that reached that restriction would no longer be able to level up. As long as this super mutated beast didn't break through the restriction, his snake tide would be able to exhaust it to death. After all, no super mutated beast could survive in this 5-kilometer wide and 100-kilometer long snake tide. The snake tide directly surged towards Mo sure. They tried to run over him. However, Mo sure's dragon consciousness directly swept across. Pa! A mutated snake directly exploded into a cloud of blood mist. It spread out on the sparkling surface of the sea. Bang! Another mutated snake exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Then, pa, the 5-kilometer wide snake tide kept exploding like firecrackers. On the surface of the sea, the blood mist slowly spread out like a veil. Demon Lord Su Fu was only slightly surprised when he saw this scene at first. This super mutated beast could actually use psychic power. However, he had lived for nearly 2,000 years and had seen all kinds of strange things. Especially on this sea, there were many strange things. Therefore, he was only surprised for a moment. Then, he shook his head. This method consumes a lot of psychic power. In a moment, its psychic power will be exhausted. A beast will be a beast after all. However, this thought only lasted for a few seconds. Then, he frowned slightly. Because he saw his snake tide constantly exploding, and the speed was getting faster and faster. In just 10 seconds, it had already exploded 5 kilometers long. However, he still ignored it. His snake tide was more than 100 kilometers long. This mutated beast's psychic power was very strong, but he didn't believe that it was strong enough to explode all the snakes within 100 kilometers. Pa. The snake tide continued to explode. Its speed was still increasing. Soon, the snake tide had already exploded 10 kilometers. At this moment, Su Fu finally became a little anxious. His snake tide was 100 kilometers long. This guy, on the other hand, had already traveled 10 kilometers in less than a minute. How could things go on like this? Thinking of this, he leaped 100 meters into the air. Then, a pair of 7-meter-long wings sprouted from its back. It flapped its wings and floated in the air. And the 100-meter-long python beneath him swam towards Mo sure's sea dragon clone. It opened its huge mouth, intending to swallow the sea dragon clone whole. However, this 100-meter-long python was nothing in front of Mo Shi's dragon consciousness. Pa 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 pa, it was still the sound of firecrackers. Under Mo Shi's dragon will, the 100-meter-long pythons also exploded. The 100-meter-long python was originally made up of thousands of mutated snakes. At this moment, these mutated snakes exploded one after another, and the 100-meter-long giant python also collapsed like a sand sculpture. When Su Fu saw this, he couldn't help but fly into a rage. Today, he was going to cross the straits, attack China, and conquer Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum before conquering Great Qin. But now, he was stopped by a super mutant beast. How could this not make him angry? Die, evil creature! Su Fu roared, and the flesh on his right hand wriggled and turned into a 10-meter-long sword. In the next moment, it flapped its wings and slashed towards Mo Shi's sea dragon clone. However, he was only halfway through when he found that his sword couldn't land anymore. It was as if it was caught by an invisible hand in the air. He couldn't help but tremble. How could this mutant beast's telekinesis be so strong? He had lived for so many years, and this was the first time he was restrained by another creature's telekinesis. In the next moment, rip, Su Fu's entire body was torn into several pieces by a huge force. At the same time, his 100-kilometer-long snake tide had reached the end of its explosion. A bloody mist that was 6 to 7 kilometers wide and more than 100 kilometers long quickly spread out. On the other hand, Mo Shi's mind was filled with evolution points. Killed level 5 strong mutant beast, evolution points plus 5,000. Killed level 3 strong mutant beast, evolution points plus 3,000. Killed level 6 strong mutant beast, evolution points plus 6,000. This 100-kilometer-long snake tide actually gave Mo Shi more than 30 billion evolution points. Mo Shi couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This guy is here to give me evolution points, right? However, before Mo Shi killed Su Fu, he plundered his memories. From his memories, he found out that what he killed just now wasn't Su Fu's main body. It was just a clone of Su Fu. His main body was still in a valley in Japan. And when Mo Shi found out what his main body was, he couldn't help but feel happy. Whether or not the sea dragon clone could quickly break through all depended on Su Fu's main body. Thinking of this, Mo Shi immediately controlled the sea dragon clone and swam towards Japan. After about half a day, he arrived at Japan. Then, he climbed onto the shore. Now that the sea dragon clone had 4 limbs, when it crawled on the ground, it looked like a 30-meter-long mutant crocodile from afar. Japan was also full of zombies. However, when these zombies saw Mo Shi's sea dragon clone, they all turned around and wanted to escape. Mo Shi naturally wouldn't let them go. Dragons will swept across. All the zombies and infected creatures exploded like firecrackers. When the sea dragon clone went ashore, its speed was slightly slower than in the water. Mo Shi spent another 2 hours before he arrived at the valley. His dragons were swept across the valley. He saw a white python in the valley. Under his dragon's will's investigation, this white python had actually reached a length of more than 5,000 meters. The thickest part of its body was actually more than 100 meters thick. Even Mo Shi had long known about this python through the memories of Su Fu's clone. But at this moment, he couldn't help but feel a little shocked. There was actually such a huge creature in the world. It could be said that this giant python alone filled the entire valley. This was Su Fu's main body. More than 1,500 years ago, Su Fu's strength had already reached the realm of a level 10 great hunter. After that, he had been trying to break through again. But he couldn't break through at all. He also felt that there were restrictions in the world, and it seemed that only when the strength of his body reached a certain level could he break through the restrictions. Therefore, he used a secret method to transfer his consciousness into the body of a snake. As for his original body, he treated it as a clone. Over the past 1,000 years, he had been constantly devouring and finally reached such a huge figure. Unfortunately, although his strength was infinitely close to the next realm, he couldn't break through no matter what. It was the same as Count Dracula back then. Chapter 202. Mo Shi's sea dragon doppelganger climbed to the top of the mountain. It looked down at the 5,000-meter-long python in the valley. The python's blood-red eyes alone were more than 30 meters in diameter. Every white scale on its body was half the size of a basketball court. He had seen a lot of huge creatures in the past few days in the sea. For example, a 600 or 700-meter-long mutant whale. But he had never seen a giant creature that could reach 5,000 meters long. At this time, the python had also sensed Mo Shi's arrival. It looked up at Mo Shi's sea dragon avatar on the mountain peak with a hint of anger in its eyes. The next moment, it opened its cave-like mouth. It let out a terrifying hiss. Roar. This sound spread over a radius of tens of kilometers. All the mutant beasts within a radius of tens of kilometers fell to the ground in horror when they heard this roar. Even the boulders on both sides of the valley fell into the valley under this roar. At the same time, the sea dragon doppelganger felt a sharp pain in its head. Its body faintly felt like it was about to be torn apart. Mo Shi was also startled inwardly. They were both level 10 super mutant beasts, but the difference in strength was so great. It seemed that this old thing that had lived for nearly 2,000 years was not to be trifled with. Fortunately, the sea dragon doppelganger had also become a level 10 super mutant beast. Otherwise, the sea dragon doppelganger wouldn't have been able to withstand this sound wave attack. It seemed that he had to end the battle quickly. Thinking of this, Mo Shi condensed his dragon will. The next moment, at an altitude of 50 kilometers above the valley, 100 dragon will meteors with a diameter of 100 meters were formed. As soon as these dragon will meteors were formed, they quickly smashed into the valley. The python seemed to have sensed that something was wrong. It hurriedly climbed up the mountain peak next to it, trying to escape. However, it was too late. Boom! A dragon will meteor directly smashed into its body. Immediately, the surrounding mountain peaks collapsed. Large boulders rumbled as they rolled down to the ground. The giant python was hit by the dragon will meteor, and the dozens of scales on its body suddenly loosened. Blood flowed out, dyeing the snow-white scales red. Mo Shi was a little worried that this guy would not be able to withstand the attack of the dragon will meteor and be blasted into pieces. That would be awkward. Fortunately, this guy's body was quite sturdy, so he didn't die on the spot under the bombardment of the dragon will meteorite. If Su Fu were to know that this tiny mutated beast was worried that he would be crushed to death, he would most likely vomit blood and die on the spot. This was definitely not harmful, but extremely insulting. Boom 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 boom, the dragon will meteors continued to crash down. At first, the giant python was barely able to withstand the attack of a draconic meteor. It was still struggling to escape the valley. However, with so many meteors falling from the sky, everything within a radius of tens of kilometers had already collapsed. Where could it escape to? In the end, after the 100 dragon will meteorites landed, everything within 50 kilometers had turned into ruins. The valley from before was long gone. As for the white python, its body was already badly mutilated. There was hardly a single undamaged scale. It lay powerlessly in the ruins, breathing heavily through its nostrils. Every time it breathed, it stirred up smoke and dust. Mo Shi controlled the sea dragon clone, found an angle, and bit down. Roar! The white python roared powerlessly. Its body also struggled powerlessly. However, the bombardment just now had almost broken all its bones. It wanted to turn around and attack, but it couldn't do it at all. The sea dragon clone bit a bloody hole in its body. After getting into the bloody hole, it began to devour. It devoured very quickly, and in a moment, it had already swallowed more than 20 meters forward. The giant python writhed in pain, as if it wanted to throw the sea dragon clone out. However, its writhing seemed so powerless. About half an hour later, the sea dragon clone had already swallowed more than 100 meters forward. It was also at this moment that its body began to make cracking sounds. Mo Shi was delighted. He was finally going to break through. Accompanied by the cracking sounds, the muscles in the sea dragon clone's body were constantly being torn apart. Because Mo Shi's consciousness was in its body at this time, Mo Shi felt the tearing pain. He immediately switched his consciousness back into his main body. As for what kind of pain the sea dragon clone was suffering at this time, he didn't know. As the saying goes, when there's blessings, share. If there's trouble, I'll leave first. Mo Shi felt that this breakthrough, because it was a breakthrough of a major realm, would definitely take a long time. Therefore, he didn't go back for a while. He planned to wait for half an hour before going back. During this free time, he flipped through Su Fu's memories. He found that this guy's memories were actually blurry. All kinds of memory fragments were intertwined and very chaotic. It was like a ball of wool that had been played with by a naughty child. He couldn't figure it out at all. After looking at it for a long time, Mo Shi felt dizzy. Mo Shi could only put down these memories and ignore them. Perhaps this guy had lived for too long, causing his memories to be in chaos. Or maybe something went wrong when this guy transferred his consciousness into the python's body. Mo Shi didn't bother with it anymore. After waiting for half an hour, his consciousness returned to the sea dragon clone again. At this time, the 5-kilometer-long python had been swallowed until there was not even a trace left. Mo Shi was secretly amazed. What AF * king big appetite. The 5-kilometer-long python was devoured in half an hour. This sea dragon clone was too good at eating. Since it had eaten so much, its body should be extremely huge at this time. It should be at least 500 or 600 meters long, right? However, Mo Shi looked at it. How could it be 500 or 600 meters long? It wasn't even 50 or 60 meters long. At this time, the sea dragon clone was only about 20 meters long. F***. Mo Shi cursed in his heart. After swallowing a 5-kilometer-long python, not only did its body not grow longer, it even shrank. Did it have to be like this? He hurriedly checked the attributes of the sea dragon clone in his mind. Species, sea dragon, level 3 desolate beast, ability, evolution by devouring, dragon will attack, sound wave attack. When Mo Shi saw this, his heart pounded wildly. Level 3 desolate beast. Not only had the sea dragon clone broken through, but it had also risen 3 levels in a row. It had reached level 3 desolate beast. How much energy was contained in that giant python's body? But it made sense when he thought about it. That giant python had been devouring and accumulating energy for a breakthrough for more than 1,000 years. However, because there were restrictions on Earth, it couldn't break through. But the energy had been accumulating. This energy was enough for it to break through to level 3 desolate beast. Now that the sea dragon clone had devoured it, it naturally obtained all the energy in its body. It wasn't surprising that it directly advanced to level 3 desolate beast. Chapter 203. After the sea dragon clone broke through, it was directly promoted to a level 3 wild beast. It didn't look like it had changed much, but its body had shrunk. However, Mo Shi knew from the memories of the 2 guys from the Flaming Land that the strength of a wild beast couldn't be judged from its appearance. In theory, the bigger it was, the stronger it was. This was for sure. But the bigger it was, the more energy it consumed. Imagine if it was 1,000 meters long, how much food would it have to eat to maintain its energy consumption? So for thousands of years, wild beasts had evolved the most suitable way of survival for them. Usually in their ordinary form, they could only grow to 30 to 50 meters long at most. However, when they needed to burst into battle, their bodies could rapidly expand and lengthen. So at this time, the sea dragon only looked 20 meters long on the surface. In fact, its body length in its battle form had already reached more than 130 meters. The most important thing was that after evolving into a wild beast, energy had appeared in all the cells in the sea dragon clone's body. When this energy gathered together and sprayed out, the power was extremely shocking. Knowing this, Mo Shi was in a good mood. Controlling the sea dragon clone, he ran towards the sea. After the sea dragon clone evolved into a level 3 wild beast, its running speed on land had greatly increased. It could reach 30 meters per second. When it came to the sea, it jumped out of the water with a splash. In the water, the sea dragon clone was much faster. It could reach 50 meters per second. Moreover, wild beasts had a natural pressure on ordinary mutated beasts. When the sea dragon clone released this pressure, all the mutant beasts within a radius of 1,000 meters scattered and fled in panic. However, Mosher withdrew this pressure based on the principle of keeping a low profile. It swam freely in the sea. At the same time, he said in his mind, "System, sign in for a special event." Killing such a big python was naturally a special event. Soon, the system's voice sounded frowny face sign in successful. Sign in event, killed a 1,000-year-old mutant python, sign in reward, immune to sound wave attacks. Mosher checked the skill description in his mind frowny face immune to sound wave attacks, immune to any form and wavelength of sound wave attacks. The sound wave attack of the 1,000-year-old mutant python almost tore the body of the sea dragon clone apart. Now that he was immune to sonic attacks, he could treat such attacks as music to his ears. Moreover, this skill was equally effective on both the main body and the doppelganger. After signing in, Mosher continued to wander in the sea. Now that it had evolved into a desolate beast, it was definitely an overlord in the sea. Not only in the sea, but on the entire earth, they were overlords. Even the current Mosher had no chance of winning against the sea dragon clone. Because of the strength of its body, even the dragon wool meteorite could only scratch it. The Qin crossbow, which was said to be able to break through all things, could only leave a shallow mark on its body. However, Mosher felt that this was not enough. It wouldn't be long before the Flaming Dawn continent sent more experts over. Moreover, all of them were either scavenger hunters or scavenger hunters who were even stronger than scavenger hunters. If he were to rely on his own body, he would at most be able to reach level 10 super mutated for the time being. He didn't know if the restrictions on Earth would work on him. But even if they were useless, he would need to wait for a certain opportunity to break through to the level of a scavenger. Therefore, the best way to increase his strength now was to not try to increase the strength of the sea dragon clone. At the same time, on the coast of the East Sea, Zhao Gao took Bai Qi and fell directly on the beach. Huff! Huff! Zhao Gao gasped for breath. Bai Qi hissed, "Let's go, or the evil man Su Fu and his snake tide will catch up." Zhao Gao gasped for breath and said, "That's right. You make it sound so easy. I've been flying the whole way, and you haven't done anything at all." As he spoke, his body crackled and quickly shrank. In the end, he returned to a mutated crow. He squeaked. Bai Qi immediately grabbed Zhao Gao and put him on his shoulder. Then he strode in the direction of Emperor Qin's mausoleum. But before leaving, he looked back at the sea. He was puzzled. With the speed of Su Fu's snake tide, he shouldn't be far from us. Why can't I see him yet? The mutated crow hissed, maybe he was delayed by something. Anyway, let's report to the emperor first. More than an hour later, the man and the bird returned to Emperor Qin's mausoleum. They reported to Emperor Qin that Su Fu was about to lead a snake tide to attack. Emperor Qin was furious. "Su Fu, how dare you rebel? If I don't take his head, I will be ridiculed by the world." General Bai Qi, immediately lead the soldiers to set up an arrow formation. "I want this evil man Su Fu to never return." Bai Qi received the order and immediately began to set up the array. However, they set up the arrow formation and waited for a full 3 days. Su Fu didn't appear. Bai Qi was terrified. Would the emperor think that he and Zhao Gao had committed the crime of deceiving the emperor? Although Emperor Qin was puzzled, it was good news that Su Fu didn't attack. Although the Qin army's arrow formation was powerful, with their current strength, it was not enough to resist the 200-mile snake tide. After a few days, all the troops in the depths of the underground palace would wake up. At that time, it would be time to restore the prestige of the Qin dynasty. Emperor Qin and the others naturally didn't know that Su Fu and his snake tide had been destroyed by Mo Shi. At this moment, Mo Shi was controlling the sea dragon clone to swim in the sea. He spread out his dragon will and constantly probed all the infected creatures around him. About half an hour later, a level 10 mutated beast appeared within the range of Mo Shi's dragon will. He immediately swam towards the level 10 mutated beast. It was a mutated great white shark more than 300 meters long. It was opening its bloody mouth and swallowing any mutated fish it saw along the way. At this moment, it saw the 20-meter-long sea dragon clone appear in its sight. It immediately swung its tail and swam towards the sea dragon clone. In the eyes of this 300-meter-long mutated great white shark, the sea dragon clone was barely enough to fill the gaps between its teeth. Therefore, it didn't take the sea dragon clone seriously at all. Just like when facing other mutated beasts, it swam over with its mouth wide open. Seeing this, Mo Shi smiled faintly in his heart. Let's test the strength of this sea dragon clone. He didn't use a sonic attack or an energy attack. He simply wanted to test the physical strength of the sea dragon clone. Seeing that the mutated great white shark was only 5 meters away from the sea dragon clone, Mo Shi controlled the sea dragon clone and turned around. The 7 or 8 meter long tail suddenly swung towards the great white shark. Because the tail was so fast, it stirred up the seawater within a 5-kilometer radius, which was surging wildly. Wherever the tail swept past, white waves rolled, forming a fan-shaped mark. Chapter 204. Seeing this, the mutant great white shark was shocked. It hurriedly tried to dodge. But with its speed, how could it dodge the sea dragon clone's attack? Smack! The tail of the sea dragon clone slapped the mutant great white shark's head hard. Crack! The great white shark's head was instantly smashed into a bloody mess by this blow. A huge hole was directly drawn out of its skull. Even its entire head was bent 180 degrees. Then, there was no more. The level 10 super mutant great white shark was motionless. Its body slowly floated with the waves. Mo Shi couldn't help but be delighted when he saw this. The strength of a level 3 wild beast was actually so terrifying. Soon, he controlled the sea dragon clone to devour the great white shark, and then continued to swim forward. While swimming, Mo Shi had restrained his aura all the time. As a result, many super mutant beasts swam over proudly, wanting to devour the sea dragon clone as their dinner. In the end, they were easily killed by the sea dragon clone. In 2 days, the sea dragon clone had devoured no less than 10 level 10 super mutant beasts. However, after being promoted to a level 3 wild beast, it was extremely difficult to advance another level. This matter couldn't be rushed. Mo Shi could only control the sea dragon clone to swim in the direction of the Atlantic Ocean while devouring these level 10 super mutant beasts. 2 days later, Mo Shi controlled the sea dragon clone and wobbled to the bottom of the East Sea. The depths of the East Sea were dark and lonely. It was so dark that one couldn't even see their fingers. Even though Mo Shi was experienced and knowledgeable, and his strength had reached the level of an overlord on Earth. But in the face of such a dark and deep environment, he couldn't help but feel a little afraid. After all, the unknown was the most terrifying. The psychological pressure caused by the surrounding darkness was simply unimaginable. If a timid person came, this huge psychological pressure would suffocate them on the spot. Fortunately, Mo Shi had dragon's will. In the sea, although the detection range of dragon's will was compressed, it could still detect a radius of 100 kilometers. After activating dragon's will, he could see everything around him. The seaweed, the rocks on the bottom of the sea, the sand, and the mutant creatures. No matter what, nothing could escape the detection of his dragon's will. Only then did Mo Shi feel a lot more relaxed. From the looks of it, this was a zone of death. It was impossible for life to exist here. However, when Mo Shi scanned the area with his draconic will, he discovered that not only were there life forms, they were all level 8 mutant beasts and above. At this moment, a huge ravine appeared in front of him. Mo Shi had already learned the topographic map of the seabed from someone in the base. At this moment, he already knew that this huge gully was the East Sea Trench. It is also called the Ryukyu Trench. The trench was about 1,000 kilometers long and had an average depth of 6,000 meters. The deepest part was almost 8,000 meters. The cross-section of the trench was in the shape of a V. However, the trench was now surrounded by thick blood-red vines. The thickest one had a diameter of about 10 meters. They looked like thick blood-red pythons. These vines didn't stick to the ground like the vines on the ground. They followed the undercurrent in the sea and drifted left and right, twisting their waists and waving their arms at the mutated beasts that passed by. It was as if he was saying, "Come and play with me." Above the trench, countless huge sarcomas filled with blood vessels grew. Each sarcomas had a diameter of more than 50 meters. These sarcomas were like a sarcomas roof that covered the top of the trench. Mo Shi didn't know if the sarcomas covered the entire 1,000-kilometer-long trench. However, at least within his detection range, the top of the trench was covered by sarcomas. All the sarcomas pulsed every half a minute. It was as if you were a living heart. It was disgusting and terrifying. A level 8 mutant beast passed by above the trench. A 5-meter-thick Sanguisurincus wrapped around it. The level 8 mutant beast kept struggling. However, it was to no avail. A few more thick Sanguisurincus stretched over. They dragged the level 8 mutant beast into the sarcomas. Mo Shi's draconic will could clearly detect that the Sanguisurincus kept sucking the mutated beast's blood. In just 2 minutes, the mutant beast was sucked dry and turned into a dried corpse. However, even if it was just a dried corpse, the mother nest didn't let it go. In the trench below the mother nest, the entire trench was filled with blood water. The dried corpse of the mutated beast was thrown into the blood water by the Sanguisurincus. The blood water immediately bubbled. Soon, the dried corpse was completely melted. Mo Shi was shocked when he saw the scene. The mother nest he saw in Manhattan only wanted to devour the entire city. However, the mother nest he saw now wanted to devour the entire sea. After devouring the sea, it even wanted to devour the entire earth. By then, the entire earth would be a huge mother nest. What a huge ambition. What was different from the mother nest on land was that the mother nest on land only devoured humans to create a blood pool to increase the strength of mutated beasts and zombies. However, the mother nest at the bottom of the sea was actually devouring mutated beasts to expand its range. Of course, it also increased the strength of a small number of mutated beasts. All the level 10 mutant beasts in the vicinity were created by the blood pool in the mother nest. Mo Shi connected to the mother nest's consciousness and found that they created these mutant beasts so that they could catch weaker mutated beasts for the mother nest to absorb. At this time, more than a dozen mutant beasts had caught many mutated beasts and thrown them near the mother nest. The mother nest's Sanguisurincus would quickly catch these mutated beasts and devour them. Through connecting to the mother nest's consciousness, Mo Shi knew that the entire East Sea Trench was a huge mother nest. And this was only a relatively small one among all the mother nests at the bottom of the sea. There were 28 trenches in the world, and 28 mother nests at the bottom of the sea. With so many mother nests, it was only a matter of time before they devoured the entire sea creatures and even the entire earth. Retreating from the mother nest's consciousness, Mo Shi looked at the huge snake-like Sanguisurincus and the huge sarcomas with a diameter of 50 meters. His eyes were filled with bloodthirsty killing intent. The next moment, he controlled the sea dragon clone and opened its mouth. Roar, an earth-shattering roar came out. Under this roar, the seawater at the bottom of the sea actually produced circles of ripples that were visible to the naked eye. Sound wave attack. This sound wave quickly bombarded the sarcomas on the surface of the mother nest. Boom 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 boom, under the sound wave attack, the sarcomas exploded one after another. A large amount of blood in the sarcomas spread out. The top of the trench was instantly filled with the smell of blood. And under this sound wave attack, the level 10 mutant beasts around the mother nest all felt dizzy. There were even a few mutant beasts whose tentacles were directly cut off. His mouth also split open with a huge bloody wound. Chapter 205. Seeing that the level 10 super mutant beasts were knocked out, the sea dragon clone immediately swam over. At this moment, cracking sounds came from its body. Its muscles were also wriggling quickly. A moment later, it turned into a 130-meter-long behemoth. It opened its mouth and pounced on the level 10 super mutant beasts. The super mutant beasts hurriedly tried to escape, but their heads hurt from the sonic attack just now and they completely lost their sense of direction. Also, Wuxia released the natural pressure of a wild beast, suppressing many of the super mutant beasts so much that they didn't even dare to move. They could only let it devour them. In just half an hour, it devoured more than a dozen super mutant beasts here. Wuxia clearly felt that the energy in the cells in his body had increased a lot. And this was only the outside of the nest. Inside the nest, the entire trench was a huge blood river that was 1,000 kilometers long. In this blood river, there were thousands of level 10 super mutant beasts. Wuxia was overjoyed. If it devoured these level 10 super mutant beasts, the sea dragon clone should level up. Soon, he swayed his body and entered the blood river in the trench. As soon as he entered the blood river, countless thick sanguisurincus stretched out toward Wuxia like blood-red pythons. Wuxia's long way spread out. These sanguisurincus immediately crouched at the bottom of the sea, not daring to move at all. Then Wuxia used the sonic attack again. These level 10 super mutant beasts once again felt a sharp pain in their heads. They rolled and struggled in pain. Wuxia controlled the sea dragon clone to open its huge mouth and devour them. The energy in the sea dragon clone's body kept increasing crazily. But at this moment, Wuxia discovered that the sanguisurincus around the nest, when they realized that they couldn't attack him, began to rapidly divide into thousands of tiny sanguisurincus. These sanguisurincus quickly interweaved above the trench. Then, a small sarcoma continued to grow on the sanguisurincus. At first, the tumor was only the size of a fist. But soon, like a balloon, it grew bigger and bigger. In the end, it once again formed a giant sarcoma with a diameter of 50 meters. Then, the second, third, and fourth sarcomas were formed. It was obvious that the nest was repairing itself. Wuxia took a deep breath. It seemed that the sonic attack was still inferior to his dragon wool meteorite. If the draconic meteor came crashing down, the brood mother wouldn't have a chance to recover. He immediately controlled the sea dragon clone and opened its mouth. Boom! A fiery red energy shot out. This fiery red energy looked like fire, but it also didn't seem to be fire. That was because it could burn at the bottom of the sea. The surrounding sanguisurincus instantly shriveled up upon contact with the energy. In the next moment, they were all reduced to ashes. Then, the energy was sprayed onto the sarcoma above. When the sarcomas encountered this energy, they were like plastic being burned by flames, constantly melting into small black blood balls. In the end, it also disappeared. Then, this energy sprayed towards the blood river below. The blood water in the entire blood pool seemed to evaporate in the face of this violent energy and kept decreasing. This time, the sarcoma above the broodmother never recovered. This was the first time the sea dragon clone had used energy. It was also the first time Wuxia had seen an energy attack. Although the cells of Earth's creatures were extremely strong and could store energy, but they didn't have energy in their bodies. In other words, even if there was energy, it was all converted into the nutrients they needed to grow. Only by surpassing the restrictions of Earth and reaching the level of a desolate beast or a hunter could they release an energy attack. And the power of an energy attack was extremely fierce and domineering. Even Wuxia wouldn't be able to withstand this energy attack. And ordinary desolate beasts, although they had energy in their bodies, couldn't not release it. This was because energy attacks consumed a lot of energy. The energy in their bodies would soon be exhausted. But at this moment, the sea dragon clone didn't have this concern. Because every time it released an energy attack, it would devour a few level 10 mutated beasts. The energy obtained from devouring level 10 mutated beasts could completely replenish the energy he used to release an energy attack. And while constantly releasing energy attacks, he found that the blood vessels and cells in the sea dragon clone's body had become much stronger after constant cleansing. It turned out that desolate beasts could quickly become stronger in this way. However, there were powerful desolate beasts and even stronger mutated desolate beasts everywhere on the flaming origin continent. So ordinary desolate beasts didn't dare to release energy attacks casually. Instead, they used energy attacks as a life-saving trump card. So although they knew that constantly releasing energy attacks could quickly become stronger, they didn't dare to release them casually. But at this moment, the sea dragon clone didn't have this concern. After all, it was now the strongest on Earth. Even if it didn't have a trace of energy in its body, no creature could be its match. Just like this, Mo sure controlled the sea dragon clone to continuously devour level 10 mutated beasts and release energy. It took 3 full days to destroy half of the broodmother nest in the East Sea Trench. At the same time, it also devoured half of the level 10 mutated beasts here. And the cells and blood vessels in the sea dragon clone's body, after being constantly cleansed and strengthened by energy, finally reached their limits. Mo sure felt a faint pain of his muscles being torn apart in his body. He immediately switched his consciousness back to his main body. It was still the same saying, if there's trouble, let's enjoy it together. It was currently afternoon. Happy was knocking on the door. Mo sure got out of bed and opened the door. A ray of sunset fell into the room from outside the door. Outside the door, Happy's silhouette was outlined by the sunlight with a golden edge. Her originally black hair seemed to have turned golden in the setting sun. There was some concern in her beautiful eyes. Obviously, she saw that Mo sure had been staying in the room for the past few days and didn't go out much. So she was a little worried. Mo sure reached out to rub Happy's head and smiled. "Don't worry, I'm fine. I'm just tired from running around outside a few days ago, so I slept a little longer." When Happy saw that Mo sure was truly fine, he felt at ease. But she still took Mo sure's hand and pointed at the setting sun in the sky. Mo sure understood what she meant and said, "Okay, let's go out for a walk." Therefore, the two of them walked out of the corpse farm under the sunset. They took a walk in the base. Now, in the base, everyone's face was filled with hope. In the first 30 years after the apocalypse, no one in the base had any hope on their faces. Because they couldn't see any hope in the first place. There were infected creatures everywhere, and the city wall might be breached at any time. Until now, Mo sure's strength had brought too many changes to the base. Hope finally appeared on people's faces, and some smiles also appeared. Chapter 206. 2/3 of the people in the base were already zombie hunters or psychokinesis. The remaining 1/3 were also full of hope. Mr. Mo had said that as long as they trained hard, everyone could become a zombie hunter or psychokinesis. When they were strong, there were no infected creatures outside the city walls. They could expand their range of activity. They reclaimed a large area of land outside the city walls to plant wheat, corn, and other crops. They even had the leisure to cultivate an orchard to plant apple trees. It was estimated that in half a year, the people in the base would solve the most basic food problem. They wouldn't have to eat porridge and steamed buns every meal. After 3 years, they could often eat meat and even fruit. And all of this was thanks to Mr. Mo. So when the people on the road saw Mo sure, they weren't as afraid as before. Some of the bolder ones even often greeted Mo sure. Walking with Mo sure like this, Happy's face often brimmed with a happy smile. Her smile was very infectious, and when the passers-by saw her smile, they all smiled knowingly. When Mo sure was with Happy, he felt that he was also much happier. When it was getting late, Mo sure and Happy returned to the corpse farm. Mo sure lay on the recliner on Grape Trellis 5, looked at the starry sky, and slowly closed his eyes. Happy thought that Mo was asleep, so she brought a blanket and covered Mo. At this time, Mo's consciousness had already arrived in the body of the sea dragon clone in the East Sea Trench. At this time, the sea dragon clone's body length hadn't changed at all. But when Mo checked its attributes, he found that it had leveled up. Species, Sea Dragon, Level 4 Dire Beast, Ability, Evolution by Devouring, Dragon Psychic Attack, Sound Wave Attack. Mo thought that after becoming a Level 3 Dire Beast, it would take a long time for it to level up again. He didn't expect it to level up after devouring half of the mutant beasts in the mother nest. There were 27 other underwater mother nests in the world. If it devoured all of them, it would at least be level 7. Next, it took more than half a day for the sea dragon clone to devour all the mutant beasts in the East Sea Trench and destroy the entire nest. Only then did Mo sign in at the seabed broodmother's nest. System, sign in. The system replied instantly, just like any other time. Sign in successful. Sign in location, East Sea Trench Mother Nest. Sign in reward, Million Sanguisurincus, Acid Breath. Both of them were skills for the sea dragon's clone. It was clear that when Mo's consciousness was inside the sea dragon clone, most of his skills could be used by the sea dragon clone. But when his consciousness wasn't in the body of the sea dragon clone, the clone could only use a few skills such as devouring evolution and dragon will attacks. Now that he could sign in myriad sanguisurincus and strong acid breath, it could be considered as giving the sea dragon avatar 2 more trump cards. After leaving the East Sea Trench that had been cleaned up, Mo swayed his body and wandered around the seabed. The sea dragon clone, a level 4 wild beast, was definitely an invincible existence at the bottom of the sea. Any mutated beast that encountered it could only escape. However, when these mutated beasts wanted to escape, the cells on the sea dragon clone's body would quickly squirm. It shot out a sanguisurincus. This sanguisurincus would instantly pierce into the mutated beast's body and grow barbs. This way, the mutated beast wouldn't even have time to escape. The sanguisurincus would drag the mutated beast over so that the sea dragon clone could enjoy it in peace. This was the magical effect of the Million Sanguisurincus. Not only could this sanguisurincus shoot out hundreds of them at the same time, but it could also penetrate the defense of any wild beast below level 4. As for this strong acid breath, it was even more powerful. The sea dragon clone could spit out strong acid. This kind of strong acid could only be withstood by the sea dragon clone's oral mucosa and acid bag mucosa. In front of this strong acid, anything else could only be quickly corroded. Even rocks were corroded to the point of being riddled with holes. Next, Mo controlled the sea dragon clone and continued to go to other trenches. In each trench mother nest, there were at least 1,500 level 10 super mutated beasts. The sea dragon clone didn't let go of any level 10 super mutated beast. While devouring these super mutated beasts, the sea dragon clone's level was slowly increasing. At the same time, after more than 40 days of check-in, Mo finally reached level 10 Great Hunter. After becoming a level 10 Great Hunter and taking the modification liquid for a few days, his body finally reached its limit. No matter how much modification liquid he took, it would be directly expelled from his body. It seemed that he would have to wait for the right opportunity to break through again. So for the next few days, Mo focused on the sea dragon clone. After more than 40 days of devouring, the sea dragon clone had devoured half of the trench mother nests. It had now grown into a level 5 wild beast. The sea dragon clone, a level 5 wild beast, was quite terrifying in the sea. It could reach more than 50 meters per second. At this speed, devouring the remaining 14 trench mother nests would definitely be much faster than before. Mo planned to go to the Bermuda Triangle to look for the underwater dragon ruins after devouring all the trench mother nests. At the same time, on the flaming land. For tens of thousands of years, countless hunting grounds had been built on the entire continent. The entrance to each hunting ground was built on an island. On the first hunting island corresponding to the first hunting ground. In a huge factory, in the corridor on the second floor. A middle-aged man in his 50s was holding the railing, looking at the zombies in the cages below, howling and roaring at him. He was the owner of the first hunting ground. At this time, a middle-aged woman also in her 50s walked over. There was a hint of uneasiness between the woman's eyebrows. She said, "My son has been in the first hunting ground for more than a month and hasn't replied to any news. I tried to contact him with the interstellar communicator just now, but I couldn't reach him." The owner didn't turn around and continue to look at the zombies in the cages. He said, "Don't worry, as a level 10 great hunter, he is the strongest existence in the first hunting ground. Nothing in the first hunting ground can hurt him. Moreover, didn't you send a level 5 psychic to protect him?" The woman was slightly stunned, then laughed softly and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't ask for your permission and send a level 5 psychic." The owner shook his head. "I've said it before, he's not young anymore. There are many things he should learn to solve by himself. It's just the first hunting ground. With his strength, it's more than enough to deal with the creatures there." A hint of worry appeared between the woman's eyebrows. "But why can't I reach him through the interstellar communicator? Why don't we send someone to check it out?" The owner thought for a moment and said, "I'll send a few people to check it out." The woman quickly nodded. "Yes, that's best." Chapter 207. On this day, Mo Sure controlled the sea dragon avatar and finished devouring another trench mother nest. His next goal was to kill 2 people. One was the deepest trench in the world, the Mariana Trench mother nest. The other was the Bermuda Devil Delta in the Atlantic Ocean. However, on this day, there were guests from outer space at the South Pole's blood-colored waterfall. South Pole, Death Valley, above the blood-colored waterfall. 10 balls of light slowly descended. These 10 blue-white balls of light were very blurry at first. Gradually, they became more and more solid. In the end, they condensed into 10 human forms. At this moment, Mo Sure's virus avatar saw the sudden appearance of these 10 people. He quickly reported to Mo Sure in his mind. One of those people saw Mo Sure's virus avatar and didn't care at all. The mechanical arm on his right hand instantly popped out. It grabbed at the virus avatar's neck. It was so fast that the virus avatar couldn't resist at all. The mechanical arm exerted force. Crack, the virus avatar's head was directly twisted off. However, the virus avatar was formed by the virus. Even if its head was cut off, it could still be formed again. Seeing this, those people were slightly surprised. "Not human?" a young man said as his telekinesis instantly spread out. As a level 5 psychic master, his telekinesis could kill all viruses and cells at the molecular level. When his telekinesis continuously attacked the virus and cells of the virus avatar could no longer heal. A moment later, the virus avatar turned into a pool of blood. The young man reached out and rubbed his nose. "A mere level 5 great hunter. Boring." Then, he said to the middle-aged man in the lead. "The hunting ground master is making a mountain out of a molehill. In a broken place like the first hunting ground, any level 1 hunter can sweep through and crush everything. There are actually so many people here. A level 3 hunter, 8 level 1 hunters, plus a level 5 psychic master and me, a level 3 psychic master." Another young man also laughed. "Why don't we all take a break and take it as a vacation? You can sweep through the first hunting ground alone." The level 3 psychic master youth rubbed his nose. "Let's go then. A level 3 psychic master is an existence that can crush everything in this broken place. With the flaming origin continent, although a telekinesis grandmaster couldn't defeat a hunter, if they were at the same level, a telekinesis grandmaster could defeat a hunter. Therefore, a place where even a level 1 hunter could run rampant, he, a level 3 psychic master, could easily sweep all the way." The leader of the level 5 psychic masters smiled and said, "Nothing is absolute." The person who came with the hunting ground owner's son was a level 5 psychic master. "We've lost contact with them, so we should be careful." The group of young men said one after another, "Got it, Uncle Hua." "Uncle Hua, how could we dare to disobey your orders?" Uncle Hua is right. But in their hearts, they didn't think much of it. A rundown place like the first hunting ground was just child's play. In the past, they couldn't be bothered to come because it was beneath their dignity. What kind of danger could there be in such a lousy place? Uncle Hua nodded to a LV-1 hunter. The level 1 hunter immediately took off his backpack from his back. He took out a barrel-shaped object and patted it lightly. He stretched out his hand and lightly patted it twice. The barrel-shaped object made a few soft cracking sounds, and hundreds of walnut-sized boxes popped out. In each box, there was a ball-shaped drone the size of an eyeball. After these drones took off, they quickly flew in all directions. The level 5 psychic master tightened his collar and said, "Let's leave this damned place of ice and snow first." Even though he was a level 5 psychic master, his body was no different from an ordinary person. Hearing this, everyone immediately activated their hover boots and flew towards the equator. At the same time, on the flaming origin continent, on the first hunting island. When the image of the first hunting ground was connected, the hunting ground owner's wife stayed in the monitoring room. The hunting ground owner occasionally came to take a look and patted his wife's shoulder lightly from time to time. "Don't worry, we've sent so many people this time. There won't be any problems." At the bottom of the earth. Mo sure knew the strength of these people from the virus clones report. The strongest was a level 5 psychic master. Previously, he had easily crushed the bald level 5 psychic master. As for the rest of the hunters, although he had not directly fought with them, from the memories of the long-haired young man and the bald middle-aged man, he knew that the strength of the hunters was much worse than that of a great psyche master of the same level. Therefore, these people did not pose any threat to Mo sure at all. This made him heave a sigh of relief. He was originally worried that they would send out more psychic masters than the hunters. He did not expect that these small fries would come. In fact, in the Flaming Land, psychic masters were a minority. It was impossible for any random force to send out a psychic master. Thinking of this, Mo sure's consciousness returned to his body. Then, his figure flashed and disappeared from the base. The group of psychic masters and psychic masters from the Flaming Land flew to the sky above the chilly base. The people who were busy in the base saw this group of people suddenly appear and fly over on hoverboards that had never appeared on Earth. Everyone's first reaction was disbelief. Below their feet this doesn't look like the technology of Earth at all. Who are they? As they spoke, the psychic power of the level 3 psychic master spread out. It directly covered the entire base. Suddenly, the more than 70,000 people in the base were pressed to the ground as if they were suddenly carrying a huge rock on their backs. Everyone's faces were filled with horror. They did not know what they were experiencing at all. One by one, they raised their heads with difficulty and looked at the 10 people in the sky. When the 10 people in the sky looked at the group of people on the ground, their eyes and expressions were as if they were looking at a group of ants. The level 3 psychic master floated in midair. He stretched out his hands, as if an immortal had descended to earth. He began to shout to everyone in the base below. "You group of natives, listen up. From today onwards, your God will descend to the world." These 2 sentences were spread out along with the spread of his psychic power. It was as if it could directly hit everyone's heart. It was as if the deafening sound of everyone's heart was emitted. The psychic power of a psychic master had the effect of intimidating people's hearts. Everyone in the base looked at these 10 people in horror. Are they really gods? Oh my God. Gods really exist. I didn't believe it before, even if I was beaten to death, but today, I believe it. Although they are not the image of gods in our imagination, I'm afraid that only gods can do this kind of thing. After the level 3 psychic master finished shouting, he lightly pressed on the multifunctional watch on his wrist. Soon, the 3-dimensional projections of the long-haired young man and the bald middle-aged man appeared in midair. He asked, "You natives, have you ever seen them?" Chapter 208. Have any of you seen these two people before? The voice of the level 3 hunter was sent to the bottom of everyone's hearts with his telekinesis. Everyone's hearts trembled. Under the effect of the telekinesis of a psychic grandmaster, most people had no doubt that these 10 people were gods. God descends. God descends. It's really God. Of course, this kind of effect was ineffective against those with high levels of psychokinesis or those with strong willpower. Especially the few level 10 psychokinesis left behind by Mo Sure. They looked at the 10 people in the sky with solemn expressions. They're not gods, they're just mortals. A level 10 psychokinesis said solemnly. Seeing this, the level 3 psychic grandmaster snorted. You don't know what's good for you. As he spoke, his telekinesis instantly attacked the level 10 psychokinesis. Pop! The level 10 psychokinesis right hand exploded first. Then, pop, 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 the level 10 psychokinesis whole body exploded like firecrackers. In the end, his flesh and blood slowly dissipated in the air like smoke after firecrackers. When the surrounding people saw this, their expressions changed drastically. The level 3 psychic grandmaster pointed at the three-dimensional figures in the air and sneered. I'll ask one last time. Have you seen them? Everyone shook their heads. No, I haven't. The level 3 psychic grandmaster shrugged helplessly. Since you bunch of aborigines can't provide any help to us, then there's no need for you to exist. As he spoke, his telekinesis suddenly spread out. As a level 3 psychic grandmaster, his telekinesis could easily wipe out all 80,000 people here. Among the 9 people who came with him, although some of them frowned slightly, they didn't stop him. After all, in their eyes, the humans in the first hunting ground were just a group of uncivilized barbarians. They were just a group of prey. If they killed them, then so be it. However, this time, when the level 3 psychic grandmaster's telekinesis spread out, it seemed to be wrapped by something and couldn't expand at all. Not only that, but his psychokinesis was also being forced back into his body. The level 3 psychic master's expression suddenly changed. There are other great psychic masters. He was a level 3 telekinesis grandmaster, but in front of the other party's telekinesis, he didn't even have the slightest resistance. Obviously, his opponent must be a great psychic master, and a psychic master whose psychic power far exceeded his own. Those hunters didn't feel anything strange. As for the level 5 telekinesis grandmaster, when he tried to spread out his telekinesis to help the level 3 telekinesis grandmaster withstand the pressure, he was shocked to find that his telekinesis was unable to spread out. To be able to suppress his telekinesis to the point where it couldn't spread out, the other party was at least a level 6 telekinesis grandmaster. How could this be? How could there be a level 6 psychic in the first hunting ground? Could it be that a level 6 psychic from the Flaming Dawn continent had come to the first hunting ground? Such a thing had happened on the Flaming Dawn continent before. Some people, for some reasons, sneaked into some hunting grounds. In those hunting grounds, he was the strongest king. Therefore, he would continue to live in that hunting ground. For example, a criminal who sneaked into a hunting ground. As each hunting ground was extremely large, as long as he didn't actively expose himself, almost no one would discover that he had sneaked into this hunting ground. Thinking of this, the level 5 telekinesis grandmaster hurriedly said, "We are all from the Flaming Dawn continent. We have no enmity with you, so I hope you." Boom! Before he could finish his sentence, the level 5 telekinesis grandmaster exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Even the level 3 telekinesis grandmaster beside him exploded into a cloud of blood mist. The people on the ground, who were still in a state of shock, had a drastic change in expression when they saw this scene. God has fallen. How is this possible? How can a god fall? This. Is the end of the world really coming? Naturally, there was a sober person who shouted, "They aren't gods at all. They are just a bunch of people who are pretending to be gods." At the same time, the remaining 8 people in the sky were all horrified. Among the 10 of them, the two strongest people were instantly killed just like that. Then, would the remaining 8 of them be any better? Just as they were panicking, a figure came from afar and slowly flew over. As he flew over, all the drones within a radius of 100 kilometers exploded. Mo Shi's cold gaze swept over these people, his voice icy cold. I'll give you a chance. 1-on-1, or a group fight. The 8 people looked at each other. In the end, it was still the level 3 hunter who smiled awkwardly. He replied, "You must be joking. How would we dare to attack you? We are only here to look for someone." Boom 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 boom. Before he could finish his sentence, he felt a mountain-like pressure fall from the sky. His body involuntarily fell to the ground. He crashed through the roof of a building and continued to crash through more than 10 floors. In the end, he crashed into the foundation of the building. The physical strength of a hunter was extremely strong. With Mo Shi's level 3 dragon will, it was still not possible for him to tear their bodies apart. But in this way, the level 3 hunter crashed through more than 10 floors, which was even more shocking. Mo Shi continued to look at the remaining 7 people. His voice was still cold. "I'll give you a chance. 1-on-1, or a group fight." After he finished speaking, he saw that these people were all terrified. He shook his head helplessly. "Okay, I promise not to use telekinesis." The remaining 7 were all level 1 hunters. At this time, when they heard Mo Shi say that he would not use telekinesis, they were all shocked. Could it be that this person had both telekinesis and a hunter? Even on the Flaming Dawn continent, people who cultivated both telekinesis and hunters were rare. And as long as they grew up, each of them would be an overlord. If it was in the past, they would not have dared to attack such an existence. But today, this person forced them to attack. And he promised not to use telekinesis. They looked at each other. In the end, a level 1 hunter said, "Group fight." As he spoke, he tore open his sleeve and revealed the right mechanical arm. The entire mechanical arm was metallic black, and under the sunlight, it emitted a black luster. The next moment, the muscles on his right shoulder wriggled and started to grow. Soon, the muscles wrapped around the entire mechanical arm. It formed a 1 foot wide, 2-meter long giant sword. The next moment, the body of the giant sword turned fiery red. Because of the high temperature, the air around the giant sword seemed to be distorted. When the people on the ground saw this scene, they all felt that their worldview was shattered. What the hell was this? The mechanical arm could stretch freely. This was no longer a technology that could be found on Earth. Now, it was heating up a genetic weapon? Was this a dream? Chapter 209. In the entire Chile base, almost everyone's worldview was shattered. It had been more than 30 years since the apocalypse. In these 30 years, most of Earth's technology had been stagnant. The only improvement was in the research of viruses. However, what appeared in front of them now was a pair of flying shoes and a mechanical arm. This was far beyond their knowledge. At this moment, the hunters also realized that if they did not make a move today, they might not be able to escape. Although this guy's telekinesis was strong, he was arrogant enough to promise not to use it. This was no different from crippling one of his arms. If the 7 of them worked together, they might have a chance. Thinking of this, their right arms all condensed their genetic weapons. Everyone's genetic weapons were also heated to a fiery red color. The 7 of them formed a circle in the air, surrounding Mo Shi. In the next moment, the 7 genetic weapons attacked Mo Shi at almost the same time. 7 weapons, sabers, swords, spears, and whips. One of them even had a red-hot mace. Seeing this, Mo Shi's eyes also showed some excitement. The reason why he did not use his dragon will to kill these people directly. It was because he wanted to see the genetic weapons of these people from the Flaming Land and the way they fought. Although he already had some understanding of the Flaming Land from other people's memories, it was not enough to understand from other people's memories. This was especially true for things like fighting styles, which required him to personally experience actual combat in order to have a personal understanding of it. At the same time, Mo also wanted to see how his combat strength was without using his dragon will. Of course, as for the promise not to use telekinesis, that was just an excuse Mo used to force them to make a move. When it came to a life and death situation, who would care about promises? Moreover, he did not use telekinesis to begin with, but dragon will. At this moment, the genetic weapons of these people had completely enveloped an area of 1 kilometer around him. The high temperature of the genetic weapons made Mo understand that even his body could not withstand the attacks of these people's genetic weapons. Although he had the invincible Vajra body, the Titan dragon breastplate, and the dragon blood armor, these 3 layers of defense. But that was only invincible on Earth. Now that he encountered alien genetic weapons, he did not dare to casually take them head-on. His figure moved as he activated Dragon's Shadow Step. In the blink of an eye, a giant dragon's shadow was left behind. Then, he broke away from the encirclement. Those hunters were all stunned. What kind of freaking movement technique was that? They didn't even see it clearly, but they escaped the encirclement in an instant? Furthermore, there was even a giant dragon's shadow. What the hell was this? At this moment, in the building that had been smashed through, the level 3 hunter finally came to his senses. However, under the suppression of Mo's draconic will, he was firmly suppressed there, unable to move at all. When the 7 hunters saw that Mo had escaped from the encirclement, they immediately chased after Mo. Mo made use of his speed and instantly appeared beside a long-spear genetic warrior. He also summoned the huge axe genetic weapon that he had not used for a long time. It hacked down towards the head of the hunter. The hunter hurriedly raised his gun. Boom! In the end, he managed to block Mo's giant axe. However, under Mo's immense strength, he was directly smashed to the ground. A human-shaped crater was formed on the ground. The ground around the crater also started to crack inch by inch. When the other hunters saw this, they were all shocked. What great strength! They could clearly feel that this person's level was 1 level lower than theirs. He had not even reached the level of a hunter. However, this strength was actually able to crush a level 1 hunter. What kind of freak was this? One had to know that on the Flaming Origin continent, the difference between a level 10 great hunter and a level 1 hunter was huge. A level 1 hunter could easily crush hundreds of level 10 great hunters. In terms of strength, they would be completely crushed. However, this level 10 great hunter was now crushing a level 1 hunter. Was there still any justice in this world? How would they know that Mo had consumed so much Titan Dragon bloodline modification fluid? His body had already undergone a fundamental change. Although he had not become a true giant dragon's body, he was still far from being comparable to an ordinary hunter. Therefore, it was absolutely easy for him to challenge someone of a higher level and crush his opponent in terms of strength. Next, Mo used the Dragon's Shadow Step to constantly move between the 6 of them. From time to time, he would swing his axe as if it had the power to destroy the world. Even if these people were able to react in time and block his giant axe, they were basically sent flying hundreds of meters away by his abnormal strength. The more these people fought, the more shocked they became. Previously, they thought that this guy was just a level 10 great hunter and that they could easily defeat him without using their telekinesis. However, they never thought that this guy would not only not be at a disadvantage but also completely suppress the 7 of them by himself. He could still crush someone of a higher level than him. What kind of freak was this? At this time, Mo was getting braver and braver as he fought. He thought to himself, still not using your trump card? He knew that all the hunters had an absolute trump card. This trump card was extremely powerful, and they would not use it unless they had no other choice. Since these guys still had not taken out their trump cards, he could only add fuel to the fire. Thinking of this, Mo used the Dragon's Shadow Step and instantly appeared behind a hunter. The giant axe in his hand fiercely chopped down toward the hunter's head. The speed of this attack was extremely fast and sudden. That guy did not even have time to react. He was split into two halves by the giant axe. Like two slices of pork, he flew far away. These two slices of pork fell directly into the base below. When everyone saw this, they all screamed and dodged. Some of the cowards were scared shitless. At this time, there were only 5 hunters left in the sky. They saw that this level 10 great hunter was actually so powerful. All of them were shocked. They looked at each other and then gathered in the same direction. The next moment, the 5 of them attacked Mo Shi together. When they were 2 to 5 meters away from Mo Shi, their genetic weapons suddenly shone brightly, emitting a dazzling white light. At the same time, their genetic weapons also released a red and white laser-like energy. This energy came extremely quickly. Swish, 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 Mo Shi was already prepared. With a leap of the dragon's shadow step, he was already behind the 5 of them. At the same time, the energy released by the genetic weapons of these 6 people continued to extend a few hundred meters forward, sweeping toward the few buildings in front of them. Those buildings were directly broken in half by the force of the sweep. With a rumble, they collapsed. This was the trump card of a hunter. Every hunter had a certain amount of energy stored in their cells. This energy could allow them to be more powerful when attacking. When running, it could increase their speed. However, the most important use of this energy was to release it through genetic weapons in the form of laser-like energy. Its speed was extremely fast and its destructive power was extremely strong. When the energy of a level 1 hunter was released through genetic weapons, even a level 5 hunter would not dare to take it head-on. Chapter 210. When the energy was released, the genetic martial arts would become a hot weapon similar to guns and cannons. And the energy would become the bullet of the firearm. Its lethality was extremely high. Genetic weapons that were releasing energy were generally known as energy weapons. Even a level 1 hunter could easily kill a level 5 hunter with an energy weapon in a sneak attack. However, there was a small flaw in energy weapons. When releasing energy, there would be a short charging time. The lower the level, the longer this charging time would be. For example, these level 1 scavengers only had 1 second to charge up their power. But if one reached level 10, the charging time would be reduced to only 0.1 seconds. It was precisely because Mo Shi knew that their energy weapons needed time to charge up that he was able to use his speed to dodge their energy attacks. When the 5 hunters saw that the level 10 great hunter in front of them was actually able to dodge their energy weapon attack, their complexions changed again. It should be known that in their flaming land, there were no great hunters who could dodge energy attacks. Although their energy weapon attacks had a charging time, it was still not enough. But with the speed of a great hunter, it was impossible to dodge. After one energy attack, the dazzling red and white light on the 5 people's energy weapons gradually faded. It returned to its previous fiery red color. Mo Shi knew that this was because energy weapons consumed a lot of energy. Generally speaking, a level 1 hunter could only use an energy weapon once. After using it, the energy in their body would be completely exhausted. At this time, they no longer had energy and only had the strength of their bodies left. Whether it was speed or strength, they were far inferior to before. If they were level 1 hunters before, then after releasing their energy, they were at most half-step hunters. This was also why they would not use energy weapons easily. At this time, these 5 people had already withered after releasing their energy. In front of Mo Shi, they had no power to fight back. Mo Shi swung his axe one by one, chopping them all down. Only the 2 hunters on the ground were left. One was level 3 and the other was level 1. Mo Shi was too lazy to use energy weapons against those level 1 hunters. He leaped to the side of the hunter. That hunter had just raised his right arm and was about to use energy weapons. Mo Shi's giant axe had already been lifted. The giant axe instantly chopped at the joint between the mechanical arm and the shoulder. He knew that this part was the weakness of every hunter. It seemed that the defense here was extremely thick. A thick layer of cuticle covered the joint between the mechanical arm and the shoulder tightly. But as long as it could pierce through the thick layer of cuticle and hit the joint, it would be a fatal blow to the hunter. With this chop, the thick layer of cuticle on that person's shoulder was directly cut open. The giant axe chopped at the joint. The genetic weapon on that person's entire right arm was directly cut off. The genetic weapon wrapped around the mechanical arm instantly lost its fiery red light. The weapon on top of it instantly turned into flesh and dried up, revealing the mechanical arm inside. On the shoulder of the man, where the mechanical arm had been severed, sparks kept coming out. At the same time, blood. It looked like a bleeding robot. This scene looked very strange. When the humans in the base, they all felt that it was unreal. Was this F*King reality? This was basically a science fiction novel. After chopping off that person's genetic weapon, Mo Shi flew up and kicked. That person was instantly sent flying far away. Bang 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 bang, he crashed through 4 walls in a row. In the end, his body hit a steel bar on the 5th wall, and only then did he stop. His chest caved in and blood spurted out from his mouth and nose. He was no longer breathing. However, the steel bar did not pierce through his body. Instead, it was directly bent by his body. Seeing this scene, everyone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Hitting the steel bar with such force was like hitting the tip of a nail. No matter what, he would be penetrated. Not only was this person not penetrated, he even bent the steel bar. How perverted was this body's strength? But such a perverted body was actually kicked to death by this human. How terrifying was this human strength? If the person who was kicked to death was said to have a perverted body, then this human who kicked him to death was the most perverted of perverts. When that level 3 hunter saw his companions who came with him, he fell from the sky one after another. He saw that this level 1 hunter was actually kicked to death by this guy. The shock in his heart was far greater than any other time in his life. What kind of monster was this guy? As a level 10 great hunter, he was actually able to crush 7 level 1 hunters by himself. In the history of the entire Flaming Land, there were occasionally examples of level 10 great hunters defeating level 1 hunters. But 1 against 7 and still being able to completely crush them, there was not a single one. This guy was not a human at all. He was the F*King animal. At this time, Mo Shi slowly landed. He landed in front of that level 3 hunter. He released the suppression of his dragon will and slowly said, "I'll give you 3 chances to attack." The reason why he gave this guy 3 chances to attack was that he wanted to practice his own combat experience. In the future, it would be good to crush his enemies. But what if he could not? He needed combat experience to support it. Now that he could get some combat experience from this guy, he naturally would not let it go. That level 3 hunter heard this and felt a chill in his heart. He wanted to open his mouth and beg for mercy. But now it seemed that this guy had no intention of letting him go. Thinking of this, he became ruthless in his heart. Since this was the case, then he could only fight to the death. He put on a look of terror and implored bitterly, "We have no enmity with you in the past. I don't know how we have offended you. If we have offended you in any way, please be magnanimous and let me go this time. In the future, I will definitely." Speaking of this, the genetic weapon in his right hand suddenly condensed. In the next moment, he stomped his feet. He leaped towards Mo Shi like a fish. At the same time, the genetic weapon in his right arm had already condensed. The fiery red long spear genetic weapon pierced towards Mo Shi's chest. Mo Shi used his giant axe to block the long spear genetic weapon. That level 3 hunter's spear head instantly turned and faced Mo Shi. At the same time, the red and white light on the tip of the spear shone brightly. It was dazzling. Mo Shi activated his dragon's shadow step and disappeared in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already behind that level 3 hunter. But in the next moment, Xiao, a laser-like red and white light suddenly shot out from the end of the spear. It instantly pierced through Mo Shi's dragon blood armor. Even half of the Titan dragon breastplate was pierced through. Chapter 211. Mo Shi also did not expect that the long spear genetic weapon could shoot out energy from both ends. At this moment, even his dragon blood armor had been pierced through. He made a mental note of this. After that, his figure flashed again and he appeared far away. The level 3 hunter was also shocked. Generally speaking, even if it was a level 5 hunter, after being hit by his energy, they would basically be disabled. But this guy was completely fine after being hit by his attack. How was this possible? He did not think that it was the effect of Mo Shi's blood-red armor. On the flaming land, other than the energy shield on the armor, there was nothing that could block energy attacks. However, he was a level 3 hunter after all. Although he was shocked, his hands did not panic. The long spear in his hand shone brightly and instantly extended more than 10 meters. At the same time, the red and white light from the long spear once again shot toward Mo Shi. And this time, he used the energy weapon to draw a few circles in the air. These circles sealed off all of Mo Shi's escape routes. Mo Shi could only use the big axe in his hand to block in front of him. At the same time, the big axe instantly extended 2 meters high and 1 meter wide. His body was completely shielded from the attack. Buzz buzz buzz, a few soft sounds. Sparks flew from Mo Shi's big axe. The whole surface of the big axe looked as if it had been welded a few times. Several fiery messy red circles were displayed. At the same time, under this high temperature melting, even Mo Shi's genetic weapon was half melted. Mo Shi's heart trembled. The attack of an energy weapon was indeed powerful. One must know that in the past, on Earth, there was nothing that could cause even a slight scratch on his genetic weapon. However, the level 3 hunter's expression was several times worse than Mo Shi's. This kid's genetic weapon could actually block the attack of an energy weapon. What the hell was this? One must know that on the flaming land, only the energy shield of a mecha could block the attack of an energy weapon. If one were to use a genetic martial art to block an energy martial art, one would simply be courting death. This was because anyone's genetic martial arts, even if they were a desolate hunter or a great desolate hunter, would not be able to withstand the attack of an energy weapon. This kid was just a level 10 great hunter, yet his genetic weapon was able to block his energy weapon attack. This was King ridiculous. At this moment, his Adam's apple moved. As a level 3 hunter, he could only use his energy weapon 3 times. This was the last time he could not use it so easily. Thinking of this, his figure moved. The hoverboard beneath his feet started to move. He flew out of the base in an instant. Mo Shi sneered. Trying to escape. Could he escape? In the next moment, Mo Shi's right arm swung in a circle, and the giant axe chopped downwards. The giant axe instantly expanded in the air. It was more than 200 meters long. Just like Pangu's giant axe, it chopped down towards the level 3 hunter. The level 3 hunter thought that if he ran away, Mo Shi would chase after him. He could then use his energy weapon to launch a counterattack. In the past, his hit rate with this move was 100%. However, he did not expect that this kid would not play by the rules. He directly chopped down towards him. At this moment, it was too late for him to dodge. He could only hurriedly raise his spear to block the attack, wanting to block the giant axe. Boom, there was a loud sound. The giant axe directly brought the level 3 hunter down from the sky. On the ground, a huge crack that was more than 500 meters long, 10 meters wide, and 10 meters deep instantly appeared. The edge of the crack was as smooth as a mirror. At the end of the crack, 2 30-meter tall buildings also had a 10-meter wide crack on them. The afterglow of the setting sun passed through this crack. It was like the gate to heaven. When everyone in the base saw this scene, they all widened their eyes and opened their mouths wide. This destructive power was too shocking. In the center of this huge gully, the level 300's lower body had already sunk deep into the soil. His upper body was still holding his long spear genetic martial art, maintaining a blocking posture. On his long spear genetic martial art, there was a mark that was about 1 centimeter deep. In the end, Mo Shi's genetic martial art was not able to split apart that guy's long spear genetic martial art with his axe. However, on that guy's right arm, at the interface between the mechanical chop and his shoulder, sparks kept coming out. Moreover, blood kept seeping out. It turned out that although Mo Shi was not able to split apart his genetic martial art with his axe, the power of the axe was too great. However, the force of this axe was too great. It directly shook the interface between his mechanical arm and shoulder, causing it to malfunction. That level 300 looked at the interface of his right arm in disbelief. How was this possible? How could this guy be so strong? The terrifying degree of this strength was actually much stronger than his, a level 3 hunter. He was just a level 10 great hunter. Normally, he would be able to crush him easily. How could he be so strong now? Was it because he was too weak, or was this kid too strong? Of course, he did not know that Mo Shi's body had been modified by the modification liquid. Naturally, it could not be measured by the strength of a normal great hunter. It could be said that Mo Shi's strength was already equivalent to a level 4 hunters. Naturally, it was not something that this level 3 hunter could withstand. At this time, Mo Shi saw that the level 3 hunter's genetic martial art had malfunctioned and could no longer display stronger combat power. He was too lazy to continue entangling with him. The huge axe chopped down once again. Kacha, the level 3 hunter's genetic martial art was immediately split into two. At the same time, the huge axe fell on the level 3 hunter's head. The level 3 hunter was split into two halves. At this point, all the invaders were wiped out. Mo Shi closed his eyes slightly, recalling the battle scene just now. He had a deeper understanding of the strength, speed, and fighting style of the hunters. He made an estimation in his mind. With his current strength, without using his telekinesis, he could crush a level 3 hunter. If he encountered a level 4 hunter, it would be a 50-50 chance. If he only used his telekinesis, he could also crush a level 3 hunter. If the Long Nian Shi and the hunters used all their methods, crushing a level 5 hunter should not be a problem. If he encountered a level 6 hunter, it should be a 50-50 chance. As a level 10 great hunter and a level 3 Long Nian Shi, he was able to crush a level 5 hunter by so many levels. Even on the Flaming Dawn continent, he was considered a rare talent. Of course, Mo Shi still had the absolute trump card of summoning the blood breeds. So in fact, his overall strength was stronger. As for how strong he was, he did not use the skill of summoning the blood breeds, so he did not know. Of course, this skill could not be used casually. The strength, number, and type of the things that were summoned were all random. And it did not distinguish between friend and foe. At that time, if he was also killed, it would be awkward. Chapter 212. Mo Shi killed these 10 people. He left a huge ravine more than 200 meters long in the chilly base. After that, he ignored the humans in the chilly base. He took a step forward, leaving behind a 100-meter tall dragon's shadow, and then disappeared. After a while, the dragon's shadow also slowly disappeared. In the chilly base, all the humans felt like they were dreaming. From the arrival of the 10 godlike powerhouses to the moment they were pressed to the ground by an invisible force. Then, the powerhouse with a pair of energy wings appeared. Finally, he killed the 10 people and left. Only 5 minutes had passed. All the 11 people were unbelievably powerful. They were so powerful that it was beyond their understanding. Especially the human with the pair of energy wings. He was so powerful that even the 10 powerhouses were afraid of him. If the 10 powerhouses were gods, then the human with the pair of energy wings could be called the God Slayer. No, Slayer was not enough to describe him. To be more precise, he was the God Slayer. From that day onwards, this powerful god slayer never appeared in the Chile base again. However, the legend of the god slayer had been circulating in the Chile base for thousands of years. At the same time, on the first hunting island of the Flaming Dawn continent. In the monitoring room. The hunting madam saw that all the monitoring screens had dimmed. She was so shocked that her face turned pale. She quickly shouted to the outside of the monitoring room. "Someone, come and take a look at the monitors." Someone, soon, the person in charge of the monitoring room rushed over and carefully checked all the monitors. In the end, he came to a conclusion that made everyone feel uneasy. "Madam, all the drones have been destroyed." One had to know that the people who went this time had brought 100 drones. 100 drones were enough to cover a radius of hundreds of kilometers. Now, they were all destroyed at almost the same time. What did this mean? In her uneasiness, the hunting madam quickly went to the hunting master's office and looked for him. "Son, something happened to our son." The hunting master's expression also changed. "What's going on?" "All the drones have been destroyed," the hunting madam said with a sobbing tone. The hunting master comforted his wife. "Don't worry, I'll use the interstellar communication to contact them first." As he spoke, he immediately ordered someone to connect to the interstellar communication of those people. However, after connecting for more than half an hour, there was no response. The lady of the hunting ground could not stop her tears from gushing out. She patted the hunting ground master's arm and said, "You must save our son. He is our only son." The hunting ground master's brows were tightly knitted together. However, he still comforted his wife. It might be the magnetic field of the first hunting ground. "I will ask Shachi to bring the Sandstorm Mercenary Regiment to the first hunting ground to have a look." The head of the hunting ground quickly nodded and patted his wife's shoulder. "Don't worry." 5 days later, a handsome young man with a height of 1.8 meters and a woman with an exaggerated figure walked in quickly. That woman had an extremely exaggerated figure, but she also had a beautiful face. With a devilish figure and an angelic face, these words were tailor-made for her. As soon as the woman appeared, she nervously asked the hunting ground owner and his wife, "Dad, Mom, did something happen to little brother when he went to the hunting ground?" Mrs. Hunting Ground just cried, unable to say a word. The hunting ground master shook his head with a hint of worry between his brows. "I'm not sure yet. It has been more than 40 days since your brother went to the hunting ground, and there is still no news from him. I sent 10 people, but there is still no news from him. And the 100 drones they brought also lost contact almost at the same time. That's why I asked Shachi to come over and bring some mercenaries to have a look." The handsome young man named Shachi heard this and his face suddenly became solemn. "Father-in-law, mother-in-law, don't worry. I brought the vice-captain and several captains of our mercenary regiment. Basically, they were all level 7 hunters. There are also 5,000 members of the mercenary group and me, a LV-8 hunter. Oh, right, I also brought the cheetah mech of the mercenary regiment. Let's make a simple plan. We will set off tomorrow morning and find little brother no matter what," he said very firmly. The hunting ground master showed a hint of gratitude in his eyes and patted his shoulder heavily. "Shachi, it's all on you." The hunting ground master's wife also nodded and said, "Shachi, it's all thanks to you." At this time, the woman with the exaggerated figure also said, "Shachi, I'll go with you." Shachi shook his head and said with concern, "Bertha, the first hunting ground may have been very safe before, but it is no longer safe now. You can stay here with my in-laws and wait for my good news." Bertha said stubbornly, "How can I be at ease if there is no news from little brother? I must go with you. I'm a level 7 psychic master, much stronger than those in the mercenary regiment." This, Shachi seemed to be in a dilemma. The hunting ground master pondered for a moment and took a deep breath. "Shachi, take Bertha with you." Shachi shook his head helplessly and said, "Okay, Bertha, remember, when you go there, you must stay by my side at all times. If you are in any danger, I will be able to protect you immediately." Bertha nodded obediently and said, "Okay." Soon, Shachi, Bertha, and several senior members of the Sandstorm Mercenary Regiment were in the meeting room to draw up a plan of action. The vice captain said to Shachi and Bertha, "Captain, Madam Captain, we have too many people this time, so we will split into 2 coordinates. You will take 2,500 people to the first teleportation point. The captains and I will take 2,500 people to the second teleportation point. When we get there, we will see if we will meet up directly or split up to search." Shachi nodded and said, "Okay, we will do as you say. Now, let's split up and prepare. We will leave in half an hour." After the mercenary regiment left, Shachi came to Bertha and gently put his arm around her shoulder. "Don't worry, little brother will be fine." Bertha nodded and said, "Shachi, for our family, you put down so many important things and rushed over here. You even personally brought people to the first hunting ground. You are so nice." Shachi shook his head and said, "We are already here. Isn't your little brother my little brother? How can I not care about my little brother's business?" Bertha nodded and said after a moment of silence, "Shachi, this time when little brother comes back, let's have a child." Shachi heard this and was slightly stunned. A moment later, his eyes were filled with excitement. "Bertha, is this true?" Bertha left a kiss on Shachi's face and said with a smile, "Silly, when have I ever lied to you?" Shachi immediately laughed like a child. "That's great. That's great, Bertha, I love you." 10 days ago, Mosher returned to base C1 after wiping out the group of people. Under the grape trellis of the corpse farm, Mosher was lying on a deck chair, basking in the sun while thinking about something. You're tuning in to the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.